Look at that. All right. It's out of sync again, but it doesn't matter. It's just a little mark, but we do have something that matters. And I want to make sure we get this one off the top of the pops here, off the top of the charts. It is very important to talk about this because we have been dubbed, a very powerful podcast, and it is by CSGO Leaks, a very reputable source out there. We have been dubbed the best podcast about kitchen remodeling. This is the award that we've received. Obviously talking countertops with Sponge Moses and YNK. From granite and marble to ceramic tile and soapstone, these three spend 1 to 3 hours each week sharing their expertise on which kitchen countertop is right for your home renovations. And we've, of course, brought in none other than Richard Lewis, who loves to renovate houses, to discuss the countertops with us. Richard, do you have any thoughts off the top of your head here, mate?
Well, also spent a lot of time in kitchens, eating mostly. So the perfect podcast for me to come into.
It's a shit name,
about
though,
male
isn't it?
pattern. Yeah, well, listen, I don't know what you were going for, really. Like, I mean, look, what do I know about? What was by the numbers? What was it really?
Good point. Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? There was nothing by the numbers about it. If you do something by the numbers, it's like, it means you do it by the book. You do it normally. It was originally
perfectly describes you and Duncan, to be fair.
Yeah, totally. Our careers, we killed our careers by the numbers. Yeah, but it was only called that because it used to be a fucking fantasy podcast, and then that lasted about 3 episodes. So, but
that was the alpha draft that we had once upon a time, a lifetime ago, wasn't it?
That's
yeah. So that was, I mean, well, what's in a name? It's all about content, isn't it? That's the important.
Speaking of killing your career, how's retirement been treating you?
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's great. The best part about it is not actually doing it. I promise this year, in 2023, I'm going to retire from retiring from esports. I'm just going to accept my fate.
And you're going to walk into the sunset with Vince.
Yeah, don't. He hates that people say that, and I get it now. I totally understand why.
Yeah, but Vince got an article on HLTV. You can go and find it. Just a quick little Google away.
Yeah, well, that's never going to happen for me, is it? So,
the video got taken down.
They don't like me.
You need to shake hands, Richard. I don't know how that works, but I don't know. Everyone can work it out eventually, right? And I heard you mentioning the male pattern baldness. Did you listen to our molding about balding episode?
I loved it. I think actually it's a strong contender for podcast of the year.
Come on now.
No, I'm not even joking. I think what it shows is that if you get charismatic people who can talk about subjects that they're passionate about, obviously balding, which is now starting to affect you. So now you give a shit. It was all fun and games when it was just me.
I wasn't making jokes,
wait.
all right?
Just you.
Yeah, well, balding
Okay.
in the process, not the fucking horse is bolted, it's over. Like, all the Demoxenil in the world ain't going to put you back together. No, that shit. But yeah, so, I noticed now, suddenly Chad's got an opinion on it. I also saw you shaving your head, dude.
Oh,
you look good. You got a nice shaped skull for it.
Well, I had to shave the head to get the fucking hair transplant. Well, technically, I didn't have to shave the head to get the hair transplant, but it was better to look after it in the post. I didn't want to have the lovely locks on top. But my mum was trying to listen to the podcast today, but she couldn't get. And this is the molding about balding episode, but she couldn't get her in-ears to work. So this is the great thing about having actual boomer parents: is the technology. It will take them time. And then she can avoid all the episodes where I'm dropping mad profanity. I think my dad started listening to one the other day, and he had to turn it off because I was cussing like a sailor. So,
I didn't raise you like this.
Him. Even though he's a tradesman, and I was at work with him, and I heard the things he said once upon a time. So you get it from somewhere. Now, look, it's the holiday period. Everybody's been having a bit of a lie down, a bit of an afternoon nap, a bit of a rest. But we do have the anomaly of Yanko, who doesn't celebrate Christmas until, is it the 7th of January, Yanko?
Yes.
So this is still a holiday period for you?
Yeah, well, it's because New Year is coming close, right? So a lot of people are coming to Belgrade, or people who maybe work or live abroad. They use the fact that, the Western countries, that Christmas is 24th, so they kind of combine the holidays so they could come back, and just there's a bunch of tourists too, so it is pretty busy in Belgrade this time of the year regardless, right? In it's just the differences in the calendar. It's just 2 weeks. We also have like a Serbian New Year, quote unquote, which is on the 13th of January, 13th, so right? 2 weeks after the 31st. So it's just that's why it's 2 weeks later, because we follow a different calendar than Catholics. But still, the New Year's is the New Year's. So
This is how I learn about different cultures.
Big of a deal of it.
Yeah.
By doing podcasts.
Yeah. And learning from the source, That's why we got Janko here to learn about how things are done in Serbia. I'd like to hear from Jason.
I'd love to see an esports travel show like with you guys. I think that's where you take it to the next level. Like, you ever watched that best food review show ever? You ever seen that? With a guy called Sonny. He wears a bandana, big dude. Well, anyway, just imagine that with you guys. You just go to, like, I don't know, you go to Vietnam, and you
What, a LAN cafe?
Yeah, and exactly. You go to like a LAN cafe, you eat some food,
Some ramen.
talk to local gamers. Yeah, that'd be
I
really
always
good.
preferred Three Sheets. You ever see that show? That guy had the genius idea. He just
Yeah, that's the one where he gets paid to get drunk.
yeah,
right? Like,
just with all the different cultures around the world, and it's paid for by the studio. That's what we have to start working on.
Yeah, well, I pitched something similar not that long ago. It was like we go to all the best like distilleries and like wineries and vineyards and all that, all around the world. But funnily enough, no one was like Richard. You're on your last legs,
we
and
we don't have the budget for it, Richard.
Yeah,
you and your mates. We don't have the millions of dollars needed to get you all sauced.
Yeah,
And
for
Jason
the
said getting
2,000
paid.
viewers you would get as well.
Just getting paid, which is hard enough as it is, right? So, we're not the ones who are making more and more money every year. I don't know how we tap into that. We're going to have to solve that puzzle eventually, I think. We might get there by the time I am actually completely bold. But look, this is something that I wanted to dive into here because we obviously mentioned, I think, at the last episode, this is the end of the year. It's a bit of a wrap-up of the year and whatnot. But I've come in here, as usual, as underprepared as possible, without an agenda being set, without anything really to point us in the direction of. And I don't know, like, everyone's doing their awards, right? So I don't know how we can do things that are a little bit more... I just want to be fucking different. I don't want to follow the trend. I don't want to be like every other fucking podcast out there. I want to give something different to the people.
Okay.
Any suggestions? We can still do awards. I don't mind. I'm still down to. We can because Richard, when he was doing stuff with Duncan, they would come up with all these wild and wonderful awards.
Yeah, we
right?
did.
So,
We did the year-end show every year, and it was like I was hopped on it. It was like the biggest rat of the year award was always my favorite.
we can't
Yeah,
steal
Finally,
content.
there's
That's
only
my
one
job.
winner in that category for all the years. It's Smuja.
I was gonna say in esports, it's like, holy shit, But we could do that. We can come up with some awards on the fly. Best player, best team, most improved. I mean, we
We're
could do
creative
that.
gentlemen. I'm sure
Yeah.
we can come up with some kind of solution. Now, Yanko, I know that you had thoughts on this. Like, is there anything that kind of leaps out, right? That you wanted to? Because this time of year, everyone's on the sauce a bit more. You're thinking about the year that was. You're looking at the year that's coming, and you're reminiscing a little bit, right? So we could obviously we've all experienced this year in different ways. We've all been at different events. We've seen either been the viewer at home, and some of them I missed Dallas with COVID and whatnot. And realistically, it's been a fucking long year. So all of our viewpoints on this, like, we can definitely offer up some unique takes on this that aren't just the cliche "Simple's the best player of the year," right? Like, fuck all that noise. I think we know how most of that's going to unfold, but in terms of the year for you, Yanko, like, where are you putting this? Because we've been doing this for a decent chunk of time now. Was this a successful year as far as you're concerned?
You mean for me personally, or for
Yeah.
Counter-Strike in general?
Well, maybe a bit of both.
Whichever way you want to take it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. For me personally, I'm split on it. I think it's been okay. I think it could have been much better. I think the fact that you didn't get to work one of the two majors, then we only get two of them a year, and considering how everything kind of went down, it's obviously something that I was disappointed in not being there. But I think we had some good moments, some good tournaments. Cologne was obviously very hyped with the grand final, right? Getting to experience the biggest major of all time in Rio. That was also
Couldn't keep it together. Couldn't keep it together.
Richard is too experienced for this to get baited by this one. But yeah, I think obviously for us doing the shows, some of them you were trying to change them a little bit to make them more engaging, more interesting. Got to do that a couple of times, didn't get to do it a couple of other times. So yeah, just hoping that next year. It was awesome that we were finally back on land with crowds, that it seemed like we were back to normal. I think we almost forget so quickly, right, that just looking back a year ago, we were still having to play online and whatnot. And I think for Counter-Strike, that's why it was a good year, because we got to go back to LAN. I think it was, depending on what your cup of tea is, I think it was good that we ended it with a really open like playing field, in a sense of, in the second half of the year, each big tournament was won by a different team. But it was also good for me that FaZe had, a really good first half of the year, winning the major. Cologne, Katowice, right? Like having coached Rain and Brocky, right? Especially for Rain, who's been around for a long time. Carrigan as well. Robban, another great guy. So I was happy for those guys' success. But talking about these like different sort of awards, Chad, what we could do, there's a couple of like interesting ones potentially, like who gets the title for worst roster moves of the year.
Okay.
Like,
all right, so we're looking at the
handling
negative.
of
That's
the
something we're good
CSGO
at.
team in 2022.
Look, I'm going to take a technical timeout here just of the podcast right now. We're going to still keep recording. But Richard, can you, if possible, in your settings, there's something I think that you have on right now. It's either the continuous voice transmission. Can you able to put that?
Have that on.
Can you put it on voice activity detection if possible? Because it's doing that thing where it ramps.
Is it?
Yeah, so hold up. You go Tools, Options, then it's under Capture, and then Continuous Transmission or Voice Activity Detection.
Yes, voice activity detection.
There you go.
Put volume gate.
Okay, and
It's picking you up.
yeah, do I still? Is that fine?
Oh, you're
Yeah,
great.
that's perfect. All right.
Okay, all right.
See,
cool.
that was
Sorry
the
about
quickest. No, that's the quickest technical timeout I think that's happened all year, right? And we still even managed to get it in the calendar year. So that's
Should just
bang
leave
on.
it in. It just killed the flow of the conversation. Still.
Oh, we will be leaving it in. We've only ever had to edit one thing out, and it was masterful that I don't think anybody would ever be able to pick where I did it. So,
Trey says that all the time, though. So
good now. So yeah, I did kill the conversation. Let me get it started again.
Well,
Yeah,
I
you
was
wanted-
the worst roster
Yes.
change of the year.
And I'll even help you out. I'll give you like a short list
All right.
of it, right? So
Yeah.
obviously there's EG,
Okay.
right? There's
So that's the whole roster,
yeah,
right? That's
we
not just one
collectively
specific
count
move.
the 15 additions as one roster move.
I think so.
Okay.
I guess.
Okay.
But most of the focus is on the main team, right?
Okay.
In regards to that, then you have the Ninjas in Pajamas, everyone's favorite roster change. They even have a legacy. If we did this last year, they would probably be on top. Who else is there? Astralis, of course, another great one, and they also are a sort of a legacy candidate because last year from the greatest roster of all time, you just let it dissolve completely. And maybe an extra one, a sort of a trick one, would be Vitality, because of how close they were last year with the whole French team, and then there was this big splashy change, and then it didn't really come to fruition, right? I don't think they're happy with just having that one pro league, under their belt. I think they were expecting much more. And I'm looking through the teams here. I don't
You could
think
throw another one into those, the shocks to Team Liquid experiment.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
That was rough.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can join the list for sure. Yeah, well, that's the thing. There's probably easier to do the worst ones than the best ones, right? I would imagine we could bring out a bigger pool of teams. I don't know, like the EG one. Don't we leave most of the EG bashing to Kassad these days? Like, isn't that his? He's really taken that under his wing. He's got a bit of an agenda, a bit of a grudge over there. He really loves to grind that stone. So I don't know how harsh we. I just let EG go. Like, it's the same with the Stewie thing, and I understand the Stewie EG situation, but I just let it go. It's like, if they don't care, I don't care. Like, I'm not going to waste my time giving a fuck about that. Like, whatever happens, happens, and I'm going to allow them to waste their money somewhere
there's
else.
no need to harp on it, but I'm sure they're supposed to be up there in this sort of a reward category.
I think
Yeah.
I think for me it's got to be the Astralis situation. And maybe it's not like worst roster change in terms of what they actually did, but I think like maybe the worst roster change would be like what they didn't do, like not actually going after any of the Copenhagen Flames guys at all throughout the year, despite the fact that it was obvious that experiment wasn't working with where they were going with it, and it feels like Astralis just wasted a year.
Isn't that because they just don't want to spend money, right? Well, I don't know. I think
Yeah,
that's
but I
the
mean,
vice back.
you
I
know,
don't
the
what fuck
reasons can
happened
be
there,
whatever they are. I think it's still a huge fuck up on their part. Like, especially when you look at all the success that all those Copenhagen play. Like, each and every one of them went to a team and made them better, except for.
Well, hold up a
Hooksy,
second. Richard
arguably.
probably has a thing to say
Yeah.
about
Whoa,
Hooksy.
I was gonna have you again.
Don't swear. It's a family podcast, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, play this on your New Year's Eve. Yeah.
We're going to the zoo tomorrow. Maybe they can listen to it there.
Oh, perfect.
Oh dear. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not trying to be one of these guys who's just looking at the positive and stuff, but it's not that I'm having a hard time looking at the negative. There's definitely was a bunch of changes within the year that weren't ideal, a little bit short-sighted. And I guess we could look at ones that are result-oriented, or some of them don't even have results to talk about, right? So there's another qualm as far as that's concerned as well. The Shocks one, actually, with how short-lived it was and how kind of sad it was, that was the end of Shocks' career, right? Like that's it. That's the end of Shocks.
Well,
he's just gonna stream now.
Shocks to Apex might have been even worse. That team did absolutely nothing.
Oh my God, you're right.
I remember keeping track of that at the start of the year, and it was just like, oh, Apex lost to another ranked 127th team, and oh Jesus, they've been knocked out.
They lost big academy at that Philadelphia, or where did they go?
Oh, Fragadelphia, right?
On a LAN, so it's not on LAN. These experienced players lost to a big academy, and I'm not talking Sprout. I'm talking actually big academy.
Yeah, there's that.
I know. I would go. I'm going with NIP because. They were pretty good at it. Even with all the device bullshit, they managed to kind of get out of it. They got Brolin to the team. They were playing some good CS, right? Things were starting to make sense. It seems that the players were finally put that device stuff behind them, and they managed to build some unity, create some good energy there. And then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, Hampus apparently was never a real in-game leader, so he didn't want to end up doing that. So we need an in-game leader. So we get Alexi B. And then we switch to talking in English, and then we're also going to put Raz, our most, skilled mechanical aimer, on the AWP and turn everything upside down. It's that for me is just even if you wanted to make a change or you had to make a change, you could have done it in a simpler way without changing so many things at the same time. And a roster that was looking up and was pretty good, and you could count on them. For example, to make playoffs of tournaments and whatnot, they all of a sudden are like, what is this? And it ended up with who was getting, Aztec just got benched a couple of weeks ago, so there's going to be further changes being made to that team. Rumors are bringing an Opera, right, so Rez could go back to rifling. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that wasn't probably the best of ideas?
That was short-lived.
There's not one staggeringly bad move, I don't think, this year. I don't think, outside of Shocks going to Liquid, which, was it really that bad? I don't think it, cost Liquid anything. It was just a waste of time, which, once you start assessing whether or not a move is a waste of time or not, how bad is it really? At least it wasn't a waste of money. It's not like when Snacks went to fucking Mouse Sports or whatever, 300 grand. Oh, and the player's utterly dog shit and the team can't win. It's so, yeah, I mean, and it was a roll of the dice. And
That's true.
They seemed relatively happy with it. Everyone shook hands, parted ways. Look, it didn't work.
And they couldn't have Yakinder at that time anyway. So maybe it was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, clearly he was obviously the guy that was in their sights. I seem to remember that move being talked about even back then when Shocks came in. Just obviously, global events kind of conspired to prevent it. But I'm really trying to think of one staggeringly bad move. Because obviously if we'd recorded this a little bit earlier, the G2 move, everyone, he's a G2 hater, but that would have been in the mix. We would have been talking about that. They pick up a tournament at the end of the year. Remember, they didn't qualify for a major with that lineup, so if they hadn't have won that tournament, we might be talking about that.
Well, that's
and by the way, winning Blast World Championships in no way makes up for not qualifying for a major in my book.
That point you just bring up here about right, and I think the prestige of an event like the World Finals for Blast definitely doesn't reach like a Katowice or a Cologne, even their fall finals in Copenhagen, right? Like they're not. We're not talking about the same level of event here, but this is a conversation that I think, and we're slightly moving away from the award. We can come back to it in a moment's time here, but it's like I wouldn't mind opening up to the room. When we're looking at less arena events in a year now, right? It used to be every week or every second week. It felt like we were in an arena. Even we would travel and we'd finish one event, we'd be at the next event in 2 days later and we'd be fucking playing, right? So the result of that event just got washed away. But that's not the case anymore, right? Like these big tier 1 events, and I do have a bit of a chip on my shoulder about how closed off Blast is, and how it seems like either people don't care or they haven't realized. Somewhere in between, and I know some people definitely do understand that, but there still seems to be a larger portion of the Counter-Strike fan base who are just more than happy to watch. But how do we start to weight these tournaments now? Is it that we'd have to look at them with more importance, though, right? Like I'm getting what you're saying, Richard, in the sense that this isn't a major, it's not a Katowice, or it's not a Cologne, and they might go into next year and still shit the bed. That's a very likely possibility here. But like an event like the World Finals would still fall into the more elite tier of events throughout the year, right? Like it doesn't have the same.
Yeah, but I mean, think about what you're actually saying there. I mean, because like after ESL, what really is there? Yeah, the Blasts. I mean, so okay, cool.
Yeah.
And by the way, the World Championship at the end of the year, it wasn't even big by Blast standards, really. Like it had the label World Championship fucking slapped on it, Yeah, of course, but like, obviously everyone was like. Everyone's beat up at the end of the year. This is why people didn't understand the point I was trying to make, which is like, yeah, happy for G2. I recorded an interview with their performance coach that they hired just before they won that event. That's going to come out.
He's
nice.
great. Mind Body Esports.
Yeah, Edward.
Yeah, he's awesome.
So we did a podcast together because I want to try and get a bit of insight on what it was like at that event, boots on the ground, And I'm like, obviously, mad sympathetic. I think it's like some gangster shit what Hooksy did, to like have like terrible things happening in your life, but you go and you win a tournament. Like I got nothing but respect for it. But the point I was trying to make is like, once you get post-major, like the season has to stop with the majors. I know we bring this up all the time. We talk about it. So they went to a tournament where everyone was beat up and one eye on their fucking Christmas turkey, and spending time with the family. Dead teams there, like people, everyone, like some die young just looking around like, yep. why will no one make eye contact with me, lads? Yeah, don't worry about it. Just get on the server, mate. Just you know what I mean? Like, there's dead teams there. There'll be dead teams there that we don't even know are dead teams there because obviously players have got the 60-day window now where they can make changes. And so it's like, and also just by Blast standards, viewership was down. People were like kind of sort of disinterested a little bit. I just think of all the tournaments they could have won. That's like, it's above a fucking Snow versus Snow or whatever the fuck they're called, Snow Sweet Snow or whatever. It's above that. But that's it. And realistically, what you want to be winning on the CS calendar is, yeah, you can sprinkle some Blast in there, but they're still massively second fiddle to ESL events.
I'm just looking through because we had 2 events throughout the year, right? That we had that Espo event, right, the Alyssa Masters, and then
Espo,
and then we had the Pinnacle Cup, which Heroic won. I think that was the case, which was a LAN event as well, right? A little bit earlier in the year, they won that with Refresh, and then they still went on to. I think they'd already planned on removing it, but that happened not that long after, and that was Astralis versus Heroic in the final. So, like, are you saying right now, like these level of events? I'll just read out some of the participants. That Pinnacle Cup had like Heroic, Astralis, Big, with obviously their perpetual fucking swinging door of whoever the players are. Fnatic, but they had Forest standing in. It had E.G. White. It had Imperial, MIBR, Finest.
The heavy hitters of the Americas.
Right, but like if you think about what Richard's saying here, right? These events, you're going to look at how many are open, right? Slots or whatever, how many are qualified slots. You look at this Espo event. This had Astralis, Bad News Eagles, Big, Complexity, Ents, Fnatic, Harvu, Sprout, Heat, Saw. Like in terms of the Counter-Strike landscape, we pull away the veil, the thinly concealed veil here of fucking the fact that this Blast event is mainly partner teams more often than not. Are we putting like the world finals of this event on a similar pegging as those other 2 events that I just mentioned?
No,
No.
I don't think we can. There's two reasons. I mean, I agree with Richard, and I've said this a couple of times with Blast Circuit. The thing that's the most weird is like this is supposed to be the end of everything, like the biggest one, and it's not. Like it's smaller than the Royal Arena one. It's smaller even than the Lisbon one in spring. So it's a bit weird for you also as a team. I was in the first one in Bahrain, right? And it's like, yes, it's massive. We were the number one seed coming into that because we won 2 events from Blast that year, funnily enough. But you come there and it's like this stage and everything's smaller and it feels more like, the event they had that year in LA, which is, you can't fill it up with people, a big arena or anything. So you try to set it in a different manner in which it would look okay and would have some crowd. And, for the players, they could maybe get the feel like, for what they're playing for. Listen, the first place was $500,000. like, the players are certainly going to also take that into account. Not just the fact that, how many points you get or for your ranking or for the end of the year or whatnot. Or, DSL events, also the events like Dallas, they have the added benefit of the Grand Slam thing, right? So even though that event on paper should be smaller than maybe or less prestigious than the Spring All 4 finals or the World Finals, it's up there because, hey, if you won Katowice and Cologne and you win something like that, you're only 2 events away from bagging, an extra $1 million, right? And also the prestige of winning like an Intel Grand Slam. So I don't think I would put it higher than that. I think it's just weird. I think players would, let's put it this way, players would benefit more from that event being the Royal Arena one because of the stuff that Richard said. Like it's coming towards the end of the year, people are already, the holidays are close, it's been a long season, it's post-major, maybe some teams are thinking of making changes. But if it were in an arena with 10,000 people, that would be enough for you to kind of give you that extra boost to be like, hey, the crowd is here, it's on the stage, it's this massive event, this is what we play for, right? Like this is why we put the hours in to be able to experience this. And that would be a help, I think, in this sort of a scenario. But because it's like, smaller, as you could see, I still think that stage was fucking awesome, like the way they designed it and everything. I think it was super cool. I think they were very crafty, how to make it still very special despite the shortcomings that it just naturally has. So I think they did a great job at that. And I think also for all the teams that were, Liquid is also a team that hasn't won a tournament this year, right? Like a tier 1 tournament. So they were definitely still playing for it a lot. FaZe trying to win a tournament in the second half of the year and sort of kind of cement their place as the number 1 team of the year, which I think they still are. You had teams like OG who were just trying to show people that we should still care about them in some way. Outsiders obviously trying to build on the major, which they failed to do. Heroic fucked everything up with playing with a stand-in, and they just won the prior tournament. And Navi, probably the one team that everyone's looking at and just like, these guys just need to make it to the end of the year, right? Like for them, it's obviously been such a tumultuous year, and you're just trying to figure out how your roster is going to look like, which we saw that they were, going with MPL over STY. And also just plan out your next year, how you can organize things with everything you have to deal with.
I don't know. The World Final, I think the biggest problem with the World Final is just like, it just stems to the same problem we talked about with Blast to open the year after the group stage in what was it, spring, I guess? Yeah. Is it like the format of their entire product across a year is just weird. Like they don't have enough events to make this feel like any kind of cohesive tie-in to the rest of the events. Like the World Final for me is just kind of like, here are the teams here, but the whole path they had to take across the year, it doesn't actually feel like it converges in any meaningful way because the points are made so long ago to get to this position. Like it doesn't actually feel like it's a World Final of all their product because so much has happened across the course of the 12 months. So that's my biggest gripe with it.
It doesn't have to be that way, though. This is the thing. Like, what they're doing, and I said thinly veiled before, and I think this is the problem. Just rip the cunt off. Like, with the group stage, don't make it a group stage. Just go, these are our partner teams. They're going to play against each other in a tournament, and we can determine who is the best team out of our partner teams, right? Like, just do something like that. Just let's not bullshit. Let's not pretend that this actually has any real like ramifications, because the way that you can qualify for the World Finals, some of the slots are determined by winning EPL, some of them
major,
are by
winning EPL,
exactly,
and then like top 4, I think, at the Blast, right? I think something like that with the Blast points.
Yeah, but just fuck off the blast points, right? Have whoever wins your closed, like just fucking close it. Just whoever wins the closed circuit group stage at the start of the year, they're in. They're into, like, just who cares? Like, whatever, just bang, they're in. And then you can do it so that instead of having the spring finals, just have this is our arena event, and these of our teams will be there. I don't know how you're going to fucking determine which ones you get there, but you could have that from your tournament earlier in the year. So the top, I don't know, 6 or whatever the fuck it is going to be, they automatically make it into the arena. Invite, I don't know, 4 teams, or have 4 teams qualify who are not. And you can even allow your partner teams to give it another crack if you want in the showdown type thing. You can do something similar to that, and then have them try and qualify again. And then that way, it doesn't feel like everything is so disconnected, because that is the case, right? It's so disconnected. It's so long between. And now, this is the thing. People are going to think I'm just a fucking blast hater. I'm the first motherfucker out there to praise their production and everything being the highest level. There's no question about that. But when it comes to their format, I'm also going to bang on about that, right? And this is the thing that I'm stuck on right now. And here's the problem. No one's making a ruckus about this, and I don't know why. Why is the information about their group stage not publicly available yet? It is the 30th of December now. I can tell you that within the next month, their group stage will be live. Like it's not. They haven't announced it. They haven't announced any details. They haven't announced any information.
But
nothing.
You know, Chad.
Well, listen, you know why as well? Because it's fucking esports, and everyone does everything by the seat of the pants.
But
you know.
I don't want to compare the pair here as #1 ESL shill in the world, right? But like all of ESL's events for next year now, whether or not they chop and change, which tends to happen year after year in terms of dates and what events crop up and don't crop up, but all of their events for next year, they're available. All of the dates, they're publicly available, right? Maybe not all of the locations are battened down just yet, but the dates are available, and that helps not only the viewer, but like the news websites. It helps us. It helps everybody. It helps the teams be able to work out their blueprint. But because this is closed off, no one gives a fuck that no information about the group stage has been given out there. Like, what if they could be changing format? They could be doing this. They could be I got no idea.
Yeah.
Why?
I'll throw them a little bit of a bone here and just say they also this year have the one added workload of having to figure out the major as well now for the first time. They're going to have to produce an event, 5 events really, when you consider all the RMRs and then the major itself, like that they've just like never had to do before.
How dare Valve just give them that, Jason? How dare Valve just from out of nowhere go, hey, Blast, here, have this burden of running the major. It's not like you wanted it. It's not like you pitched for it. Here you go. You didn't know this was coming. Have this.
I'm just saying.
Didn't happen.
I'm just saying. I agree with you that the dates should be out. However, I'm going to have a little bit of sympathy because we know what probably a lot of the audience doesn't know is that when you compare the size of Blast versus the size of ESL, it's not even reasonable to consider like a number of employees and number of staff between the two. Like that's a company that I think this kind of level of an event added into it is going to really slow down some of the workload with a lot of people having to do, probably 5 fucking jobs. But yeah, it shouldn't be hard to get your at least group stage out that's going to be taking place in January for sure. But I mean, equally, the teams all know. Like the teams and the players all know. It's the public that doesn't know, which, I mean, obviously you need that and that should be out. But again, like it's not like this is going to catch the entire scene off guard. It's just for viewership and everything.
To be honest, I don't really care that they haven't announced it, but I do care about what Chad said earlier about their circuit, and it gave me an idea.
Yeah.
Because we also talked about this as well. I think Blast should just not have the show. The showdown shouldn't exist.
Yes.
There shouldn't be.
Thank God.
There shouldn't be.
Thank God, Yankee.
Blast.
You read my mind.
Blast shouldn't have a mechanic to have someone come through an open qualifier and come to Blast. They should just get rid of that. What they should do, either they have 12 partner teams now, either bring in 4 more teams and have 16 teams and exchange the 2 showdowns for 2 more arena events in a place like they had the Madrid one, or something like where they can build up an audience like they did in Lisbon. Now, whenever they come back in Lisbon, there's more and more people. It's cooler, so they need 2 more locations like that. Or you can just keep the 12 teams, and the last 4 teams, you can even fucking invite them yourself, and, the whatever. You put a guy, someone from there, and say, this is the commissioner of Blast, whatever the fuck, and they say, we have made the decision, these are the 4 teams that are going to attend this event and the next one, and it doesn't even have to be the best team in the world at the time, all 4 of them. It can be 3 that are, not partner teams like Heroic and Gambit were for the majority of the time, and then one of them can be a Portuguese team if they're playing in Lisbon, like they did for those tournaments before I know they were also trying to add, there was always like a local team that was getting a spot for a chance that they would be in the arena, that they could make it to the arena, so they could have like the experience for the fans and whatnot. And you just do it like that, and fuck it. Like, you don't need to, especially if you don't have the resources, and they don't, like, to run all of this stuff all the time. It just makes it so complicated. It makes, like Jason said, like, it to look disjointed, their circuit and whatnot. Just move to the F1 model that you were initially talking about. Have these arena events and then end it all with the World Finals in Copenhagen, right, in December or November, right before the majors, because we're hoping by that time the majors are going to be at the end of the year. So it would probably work out and be the same days that it is now, mid-November, mid to late November, and that's it.
Well, you know why they did it as well? You know why the Showdown exists, and that's because basically the community had a hissy fit. Everyone had their, panties in a bunch about fucking franchising and monopolies and, all these other terms that people don't understand. Certainly not the average CS fan. And what they do is they got, like, if you're not ESL, you have to play the game by a completely different standard. And everyone was like, oh, Blaster not giving opportunities to other teams outside of their, like, it's like, they don't have to, by the way, Like, there's absolutely no rule that says they have to do that. In fact, it would make more sense for them to be doing a franchising-style league where only their partners are allowed to participate, because they have to offer more value than ESL to compete. Right? So it would make total sense for them not to do garbage like the Showdown. But I remember the Threads community was fucking whining about it. Oh, won't somebody think of the shit teams? Yeah, that's what we need. More bedroom organizations that don't fucking pay their players and can't last longer than 3 months. Yeah, let's flood the zone with those. Let's have them competing in all our biggest tournaments. Makes us look great. So, and obviously Blast had offer that mechanic in. This is another reason why Blast, to me, as a circuit, it feels like devalued in contrast to the ESL circuit. Because remember, there's these other events where it's like if you were to say to me, like, who won Cologne, who won Katowice, who won this, who won that, I could probably tell you, even with my fucking brain, I could probably tell you who won what over the course of a year. Right? If you were to say who won Blast Fall, and I'd be like, well, which part of it? Like the fucking, there's a Showdown and there's a this and a that, and I couldn't tell you who won Blast.
I don't even think those events don't even technically have winners. They just have people who qualify to the next stage.
Yeah, and that's another thing, right? It's like they say they want to have a Grand Prix model, which is cool. I love the idea of doing something a little bit different. But it's like you say, they're not even winners, right? They're just in a process of constant qualification. And let's also be real, you can't fail to qualify at Blast. You can't. Like with their fucking point system, we just saw that with OG at the World Finals out of nowhere because they're a partnered team. So it's like it doesn't even mean anything. It's just content. That's all it is. It is just content. It is competitive Counter-Strike themed content. It doesn't feel like a real tournament circuit. So yeah.
I've been trying to ask that. We've been asking the question a little bit more so, like, because I look, we think that we have quite a highbrow listenership here, Richard. We think very highly of ourselves here. We've been asking for, like, or at least I have, just people to get involved in some of the comments, not because that helps the algorithm or anything, but just to see if people are okay, like, with a completely franchised model, and some people are, and some people aren't. And I think in the ecosystem that we have right now, if it existed in that way, I wouldn't have an issue with it. I remember last year at the start of the year, I was trying to reason with the way that their group stage is and how silly the format seems, with going, okay, well, if we look at these as matches just to test the water and everybody gets a bit of a warm-up coming out of the break and we don't put too much stock behind this. But then when I see it getting, this is the bit that irks me the most. And I understand that they're going to try and sell the product in the best way they can. Of course they are, right? But I've always tried to be that, and I think we all have, right? Everybody here has always tried to be from that standpoint where we're not going to bullshit the viewer. We're not going to try and pull the wool over the eyes. We're going to call a spade a spade. And if we watch a bad game of Counter-Strike, I'm sure, Richard, you've been on desks with us or you've seen us doing a fucking desk segment where if it was a shit game, we're going to say, that was a shit game, right? Like, obviously, we'll hold our P's and our Q's a little bit, but
Listen,
we're gonna.
I was going to say that we're going to do a whole segment on outside.
It wasn't a good game. It was an entertaining game.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
classic.
so you just have to bend it a little bit, right? But we're not going to tell. I know that I've come in and I've like if I watched a bad game of CS before when I was doing desk stuff, I'd be yeah, this wasn't a good game of CS, right? You're going to tell the viewer because you're not going to bullshit the viewer. If it's an entertaining game of Counter-Strike, well, they would have fucking enjoyed it. If it wasn't, if it was. And this is the thing where I seem to take issue, and I don't know why I take issue, because as I mentioned, I understand why they're doing it, but it's just not the way I would do it. So maybe that's the bit that gets under my skin a little bit there, and I understand everybody wants to do things a little bit differently, and that's fucking fair enough. I'm just fucking sitting in the middle of the fence right now. I need to get off it.
We're a 10-year-old boomer shooter in esports, within which the largest region for esports marketing budget doesn't participate. So yeah, franchise now, it's okay. Doesn't really matter, guys. It doesn't matter. You know, it's not like when I was writing articles in 2014, 2015, ESL having secret meetings in Twitch headquarters. They're trying to franchise all
the good old days, we call that.
Yeah,
Vulcan.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like that no more. It's ESL and Blast, and they have agreed to have a peace treaty where they essentially divide up, as much of a peace as you can ever have with ESL, right? But they've agreed to divide up their territory in a way that doesn't cause conflict and consternation, and the appearance of playing nice. Where are all the other TOs, guys? They're not even. There's no competition anymore. They all died. There's no money in it. So there's no star ladder, right? Probably all y'all still owe money. There's no star ladder. There's no fucking. I mean, it was PGL. I kind of feel that was like I dreamt that. That was a fever dream, right? I didn't come back and do like one major that was utterly terrible, did I? Did I do that?
You
okay.
did do that.
And you even had the belt, Richard. You had the belt and the sunglasses.
Oh yeah, you had the
did
belt
do
in the segment that didn't even go out to the arena. So
yes, I know that was great. They were just like, why is there some fucking? They probably thought they'd accidentally tuned in to like some fucking wrestlers, like some broken down old fat wrestlers fundraiser. He was like just begging for money, like I need a replacement hip, please. WWE, don't look after me.
And you're just standing up there being like, why is no one fucking reacting to this? This is banger content. This is my best work.
Mate, to be fair, I was saying that to production all the time. Why aren't you reacting to anything that's happening in your show? But anyway, so there's no PGL really. There's no, who is there that running tournament? We've Blast and ESL.
We've talked about this a number of times on the show, and it's just like I don't know to make it. I mean, to make it really actually valuable and profitable to run Counter-Strike, like you have to have like a significant number of events, right? Like you need there's got to be like a critical mass that you have to reach in terms of the amount of broadcasts you do, the amount of days you have in the calendar, and those days just aren't there. You keep saying Blast and ESL, but then also remember to add in Valve, because once the major gets announced, and usually those dates come a little bit late. That's like 2 weeks for the RMR, the regional qualifiers, and then 1 week for the RMR, and then 2 to 3 weeks for the major. Then you multiply that by 2, and all of a sudden we're sitting in, it's like ESL has like their tier 1 circuit is like 150-ish days, Blast is like 50 to 60, and then you add like another 50 in for Valve majors and across the year, and you're sitting at 250 days of Counter-Strike plus 2 player breaks that are each a month long, and it's where are those third-party organizers supposed to come in? So yeah, I mean at this point,
and now we do have we got the home sweet home, the snow sweet snow,
and I think that's great.
The match suite fixed. We've got them all.
Okay, maybe not that part.
And they're all.
That's not so
mate. Those tournaments only exist for that. By the way, I don't want to. If it's just getting too real, all right, we can.
You get it as real as you want, baby.
Well, yeah. So those aren't even real tournaments. They're not even real tournaments.
You don't think those tournaments have any value? Because the reason why I like those tournaments is because it actually, we're one of the few esports that can have like a grassroots second tier amateur scene. Like how many times have we seen League of Legends try and organize like their amateur division to?
Yeah, the academy leagues have value. Yeah, We Play has value, right? I agree with that. But like, right. When you talk, because I talk to a lot of like tier 2, tier 3 scrub teams,
sure.
In the background, I still talk to them, like I never got elitist like you guys. Exactly. I am fucking,
blue collar
Ricardo
esports.
Castro, man of the people, you know what I mean? So I was like, and they're all mega concerned about like, the only thing they really give a shit about is whether or not they're ever in bad standing and they don't get invited to those. But then you have to ask yourself why that is. And then you start looking into all these, like, put it this way, I'm signed up to a bunch of, like, betting pattern alerts, you know, so every time there's, like, a regular betting, it flags up. And it's like, dude, that every time I can tell when one of them tournaments are on because my fucking inbox is full. You know what I mean? Oh, right, it's another one of them, is there? It's trash. They're trash. They're just there so fucking shitty little weirdo teams with players you never heard of can earn some money from this scene by running side bets. They don't really have any value outside of that, like real value. You know, and like Chad even just said it earlier. He said even the ones that we like, the ones that bother to put it in the stadium, it's all stand-ins and teams that, you know, they go to that one event, they don't place, they fold, you know. So, I mean, look, at the end of the day, there isn't really... We've become essentially like an American sport, ironically, without Americans being around to participate in it, in the sense that the only value left in Counter-Strike now is to have these pseudo-franchising setups, and if you're not part of that, you may as well not exist. You know, it sucks because you're going to be like, where would the feeder teams come from? Where does the talent come from? Well, we need a structured academy league. We play off as that. People are participating in that. We're already seeing the dividends. We've seen loads of players come through the ranks. We're still seeing that. It's not just an RV, it's other teams. But, you know, outside of that, like CS is scaling down massively. And so if you want it to
it needed to
endure,
though,
well, I don't know. Probably not. I mean, now, sure, with everything that's been going on, like post-pandemic. But going into the pandemic, I thought we were in a reasonable, good spot. It was 2020 when I recorded that stream where I was like, CS is fucked. But because it was 1 year into the pandemic, and I was like... You know, I had Valve employees message me going, we just watched your stream where you spent like 2 hours calling us cunts. Well, okay, yeah, cool.
Was that a fun conversation?
It's always fun. I love catching up with those guys because I'm never talking about them. They're like the people that actually watch my shit still are the people that like actually give a fuck about CS. It's more like a broader company direction. But anyway, you know, so I was talking about that at the time, and it was just basically like, we're coming out of it, right? We're in the middle of a pandemic. Everything's scaled down. Marketing budgets are scaled down. The way we do shows is scaled down. We're doing everything online. I called that we wouldn't get high quality production levels back in most of our events post-pandemic. I knew TOs were going to use the pandemic as an excuse to like cut, you know, profit margins and all that stuff.
Well, we still hit their KPIs, Richard, with the online stuff, so that's half the fucking problem.
Yeah, well, exactly right, because the KPIs are all hours watched. It's not even like, you know, peak viewership. Everyone wanks up about that stat, but like advertisers don't care. And TOs, it's a nice little headline grabber, but hours viewed is the big one. And so, yeah, all of our content has been catered to occupying the space. And so, yeah, but coming out of 2020, the way we do things in CS, we don't need more little individual tournaments like, you know, your Snow Sweet Snow, all of this stuff. What we need is we need things like We Play to be brought front and center and given a bit more prestige and prominence in the calendar. I'd like to see, for example, an integration between the We Play Academy League, Blast, and ESL, so we have like a cohesive circuit. And instead of doing a shitty little showdown, why not have an academy team that wins We Play gets to come in and play a tournament and gets like an invite? And maybe holistically we can look at a circuit and go, wow, this makes sense, and there's opportunities there for everybody to eat and blah, blah, blah. But instead, like what we're doing is we're just running sort of 3 self-sustaining independent circuits that brush up against each other delicately and gently over the course of a year. And I think we're doing it that way because we sort of recognize like that we're never going to get to that thing we all want of the 6-month seasons with a major at the end.
That's where Valve would need to get involved, right? And that's the thing. We all know that
they won't do it.
In that situation, they're going to let the kids play until we either kill each other or we work it out. So let's hope for the latter. But you were talking about the academy side of things. I was thinking about this as well because a lot of the top teams are now, and especially NIP being one of the more recent ones, and if the rumors about Head Trek are true, then it's even getting further in this direction of just becoming international teams. So all the top orgs, these partner teams that we look at, not almost all of them, I'd have to go through and fucking double check my numbers here, but a good portion of them are international teams. So now your feeder teams, your feeder players are coming from national teams through like national championships, right? For example, Movistar Riders with Sampaias is a perfect example of this, right? Well, he's the cream of the fucking crop. He makes it to an international team and now he's getting more money. He's going to get more opportunities because it's a partner team with ESL. Whereas Movistar Riders, well, now they're going to fall back down into obscurity unless they can, work this shit out, which is going to be very difficult for them to do. So, yeah, I think that the academy teams is one prong of this. The national events where... this is what I thought that the conference for what ESL were running could have been really good because a lot of that culminates in, national teams, right? A lot of those teams are representing nations. You win the Polish Cup, you win the Meisterschaft, you win the ANZ Champs, for example. So and I think now that's the way we're going to go. If you want to be in Tier 1 Counter-Strike, well, it's likely to be an international team unless you can pull off the Gambit/Cloud9 storyline, which... Look, it's not impossible, but that's the fairy tale, right? That's the is it $1 Million Baby, whatever the fuck it is. That's the story where I think that's the wrong movie I've just fucking referenced here. But
That's the one where the female
Spoilers.
boxer gets she gets paralyzed at the end.
That's your takeaway.
It is an appropriate metaphor for Counter-Strike, I think.
Oh, fuck it. But yeah, I think I kind of made my point until we got into someone being paralyzed.
It's
only a movie.
I would love to have the We Play kind of be that integrated too, but I guess the question is, and I guess this would be a perfectly shot in your direction, Richard, as the resident conflict of interest person in the scene. Would you actually, would you actually be concerned though? Because if you start having that level of integration, you're going to have a world where Young Ninjas could play against NIP and Mal's NXT could play against Mal's and OG Academy could play against OG and Navi Junior against Navi and Astralis Talent. It goes on and on.
Yeah, and then obviously we'd have to do the one thing we're not good at in esports, and that's use some fucking common sense. But there's definitely a way you can do it. I mean, because there's examples in football. Soccer, Jason.
Thank you.
I saw you were big on that in the World Cup.
Oh yeah, I was posting all the soccer tweets. That's me.
Couldn't get enough of your feed, dude. But yeah, so obviously they do it in football where for example there's like an academy team. Like a number 2 team for like Barcelona, for example, will play in the second league in La Liga, but with the understanding if they ever earn promotion, you can only have one team in the league. So essentially, you're only doing it to give your teams experience. Now, that's not like a perfect example of how it would work in a CS tournament, obviously, because if you qualified for an event that you then couldn't play in, what would be the fucking point of playing the qualifier? But there's probably guardrails we could put up, where it wouldn't be an issue, or they couldn't necessarily play each other, or whatever it would be. It would depend what event they were playing at as well, right? Because remember, Blast and ESL, there is an overlap between all of the teams. But think about like ESL Pro League and how they've just expanded. They just announced that, and that's good, by the way, for all of those teams that I was talking about. You wouldn't necessarily get the same bunch of teams competing at the same events, and so maybe it's a case of if you qualify for one and then you can't play in that one because your parent team is there, you just go down the line and you go, okay, well you're going to play in the next one, something like that. We could work something out. Okay. It could work. Yeah.
There's always workarounds, right? I don't know. I think that there's a lot of stuff that I don't think they could have clauses.
Richard, was this on the podcast I did with you guys, or I asked Jason and Chad? It was, so what does the end game for you look like for CS in terms of what's the ideal schedule, the circuit look like? Is there multiple organizers? Is there one organizer with Valve's blessing or
Yeah,
whatever.
this is what we did on the Four Horsemen one, Yanko. Yeah, well, we basically the conclusion we came to, and I'll definitely shut up after this because I know I'm reading the Reddit comments from the future, and it's how this podcast used to be good, and then they brought Richard on, and he didn't shut the fuck up. Even though I guarantee, if you were like add it all of the time, I probably like talked like the third most or something, or whatever the fuck. Right. So anyway, yeah, what we agreed was you need to have like the start of the season. All the big events, we know 6 months in advance where they're going to be, when they're going to be, who gets what, when it's an IEM, when it's a blast, when Pro League fits in, and then you earn points, sort of similar to the DPC, but actually good. Yeah. And then the points that you earn over the course of that circuit put you into the major. The only other team that's automatically in the major is the winners of last major, and everything else is up for grabs. You play the major, you crown a winner. Gabe Newell comes out and goes, right, we're taking these 3 maps out, we're putting these 3 maps in, suck it, you have to learn them, fuck you, and then we do another 6 months, another season, another circuit, all the way through to the end of the year. You have 2 of them, 2 sort of little independent mini circuits where everyone cooperates and everyone participates, and now suddenly Counter-Strike makes fucking sense. I can't explain to someone why Blast is important in the middle of an ESL tournament. Like going into Cologne. Like, keep in mind, ESL don't even let you say that shit. You sort of can, but like they prefer it if you don't, They like, you don't, when they're doing their little stinger videos and all their hype videos, they never go, Blast World Champions come to ESL. It's like, even in UFC, they say if you were a Bellator champion or whatever the fuck. So
they let us say whatever the fuck we want, though.
Yeah.
In that.
Well, yeah,
I don't know what the video
you got
is,
the
we
big
can say
swinging
whatever the
dick
fuck
over
we
there,
want.
Chad. You can say whatever the fuck you want. Maybe other people don't have that luxury. You feel me?
Well, they should just fucking like
I
we
agree.
can't
Talent
be
He's the hunter
we
of the
just
talent
can't. we can't be pulling the wool over people's eyes like that because the last thing we want to become is disingenuous in that regard, right? And this is the thing, like we can big up the events that have earned the prestige or that have the prestige or whatever, but we can't just be making people think like that. There's too much bullshit going on, right? And with what you were talking about there, Yanko, it's similar to the thing that remember me in the ESL office where I was trying to craft I was going full Rain Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to base it. I was basing it off of like tennis or whatever. I was coming up with all this different shit. But the thing that I fell back on was this inevitable penny dropping of somebody has to play God and God has to be Valve and Valve. Well, even though they're God, they don't want to deal with the shit. They just want us to. So we always will have that one stopping point of that ever being the case until they decide that, hey, yeah, we do want to get involved in this way, because it would just mean more decisions that they would have to come up with at the end of the day. And look, a lot of people can critique their model. I've had some arguments with people, who I respect about this before, and I get that everyone can fall on different sides of the fence here, but things seem to be. Whether they're not, we've been around for an awfully long time. Things seem to shake out all right. Like things seem to work out at the end of the day. And when they don't, well, that's when they come in and they make a very soft prod, right? And they go, okay, well, we'll just write this little thing here, and okay, you can't do this, or we just let it float over here, and we're not sending it on any course, but we want it to avoid plummeting in towards this fucking planet, right? So they'll just nudge it softly away, and we'll see where we go next. And like as much as I get the whole thing where people are like, oh yeah, but look at Riot and the way that they are with League and this, that, and the other, and how they are with Val. I don't want that, and I don't know. I'm not jealous of what they have in any way. I don't want to get a fucking wardrobe picked out for me from H&M that I have to wear on air because this is the streetwear look that we're going for. I don't what the fuck's going on, man? Like we get to kind of still be ourselves, and that goes for the players, the teams, the game, right? That's the cool thing. I know a lot of people didn't like Outsiders winning the fucking major, but they did it by being comfortable in their own skin of how they approach the video game of Counter-Strike, So, it's exhausting. It's fucking gross.
Yeah. They shouldn't be comfortable in their own skin.
No, absolutely not. Sometimes it is appropriate to shame people, that's how I feel about Outsiders.
Well, it could be a whole lot. Yeah, look, they leave the excitement for the last fucking 10 seconds of every round. That's not everybody's jam, unless your name's Maui. I don't know why Maui gets excited in the last 10 seconds of things. We'll have to figure that one out going into 2023.
He knows he's done waiting.
Just to wrap up the award, by the way, guys, for me, I think the worst signing was Spinks to Vitality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Yeah. You want to give us? But they won EPL, Richard.
Yeah, but he's played terrible since he joined. He
It hasn't
looks like a
gone well
shadow
for
of
him, yeah.
himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
What Twitch chat come up with nicknames for players. You know,
Okay.
when they're playing good and when they're
Okay.
playing bad. Like, yeah, you know, when like Art misses a shot, it's fart, or you know,
Nice.
Sample
That's the
the zero.
peak of humor.
Yeah, well,
What's
they
Spinks?
started calling him Stinks. Come on, guys. So,
All right. Talking about that, I have another award.
listen, sometimes Twitch chat comes up with gold.
I've got another award for you guys. So how do I phrase this? The worst good player. Right?
Worst
You
good
feel me?
player.
Someone who's like having good stats
Spinks
or
win
is
again?
like looks like
Oh.
on the surf. Like let's say, for example, a guy like that would potentially be Draken back in the day, right? Because he would have these highlight rounds, right? But actually he was shit. Like he couldn't do, some of the basic stuff, but because there would be a highlight every now and then, right? People would think that he was actually good, which he wasn't. Feel me now?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
That's a tough one.
I'm not wearing my negative pants in Australia, Yanko. I'm recharged by the sun. I'm driving a car. I'm seeing my family.
I
I'm in
miss
the ocean.
negative
Everything.
Well-
I'm a positive Pete at the moment. I need to become a negative Nancy.
I don't want to rain on your parade, Chad. It's good that we have Richard as a guest, and I just exist as well on this podcast. So I think there's plenty of negativity to go around.
Can you guys kick us off then? Because
I'm
I need
looking
to have
through
a
the
fucking
names.
think about
I know,
this
I'm
one.
looking through the names
Jesus.
right now.
Well, a controversial one would be Blame, right?
Sure.
But that's to take into account how good he has been, like his rating is and everything. And
Can my man not get any love?
no.
It's so outrageous.
For me, I've been saying it throughout the whole year. I've been saying it. Blame is like legit a top 5 rifler this year. He's not just baiting anymore. Sure, he still has those rounds every now and then, but he's doing more for the team. So I wouldn't put him in that category. I would go on a more of a like probably the personal level, in a sense, who I just don't really rate
Nico?
very highly. Yeah, of course, obviously. No, I would go with Art because I think he's like the one reason why Furia cannot win an event or like legitimately like be a top 4 team or be a contender or anything. I think he's just wasting the potential of Fury and Serato. Not even the potential, just how good they actually are. Like both of them on land this year against top 30 teams are in the top 12, right? So you have 2 guys in the top 12 and you're forever a dark horse, right? So get him out, get Gary out as well, because he can't coach a major until like the next millennia. And also anytime like you see, for me, it's always the duo of the coaching game leader. So either he's on board with how Art is running that team, or he doesn't have like what it takes to kind of either make him change his style or just get rid of him and bring someone who is on the same page as him.
Peacemaker's out there, waiting in the wings.
Zeus is out there.
He's
I don't
rumored
think
with
Zeus
Flux
wants
at the
to
moment, though,
coach
right?
them.
I
I
saw
think-
that, but that was from today.
He's had one
Yes.
massive heart attack. We don't need to give him a second one.
That's a
Yeah.
good point.
Well, look, I've got a player that fits your award perfectly, by the way.
Right?
Okay.
And it's a controversial one.
Here we go.
But it wouldn't be.
Shocking.
Look, Richard, all you do is say controversial things for relevance, Richard. So of course it's a controversial one. Brokey.
I had a feeling that was coming.
Brokey is a fucking stats monster, no denying it, right? And he's won the MVP of a bunch of tournaments where it's like, because everything we do is like stats driven. I get it; it makes total sense. But for example, like the Bad News Eagles win over FaZe in the major, he went to pieces at the end of the. At the end of the game, he like literally started making elementary mistakes that no tier 1 player should be doing. And I've seen him do it at a bunch of tournaments. I've even seen him do it in tournaments when he ends up winning the MVP. He like weird pushes, silly little aggressive plays when it's not needed. This is a guy who like, if you only look at numbers, you would think I was crazy. But anyone who's watched him play knows what I'm talking about. Makes a ton of mistakes.
I think that's actually a pretty good shout. which doesn't mean that Brocky is not a good player. I think I have a word that would describe him almost perfectly, or what you were talking about. That's erratic. Like his game is sometimes erratic, where there's small movements that are unnecessary, right? And because of those, maybe he misses a timing or gets caught. Like he almost feels a little bit in a way like Guardian on steroids, right? Where he is very skilled mechanically, and when it's like chaos around him and he can sort of just keep swinging, right, and taking fights that he's comfortable in and that he enjoys, that's where he's really dangerous. And if you look at it, where Brocky has his best performances are the tournaments that FaZe ends up winning, right? It's like almost that he is that guy that tips the scale when he has more impact, and either those risky plays are not getting as punished and paying off more, or he's just like, playing a bit better and a bit more clean, right? So I feel like for them it's about, and for Brocky as a player, first it was a little bit maybe being a little bit too passive, not finding enough impact, then he stepped up in that department, the team helped him as well. So now it's probably about like learning how to be a little bit more calm and sort of letting the game come to you, letting the frags come to you, and just picking a spot sometimes, picking a position, and having a couple of rotations out from that.
He's not a traditional opper in any sense. I think a lot of that comes out, like, obviously just his style of play. He's one of those guys where when it's on and it's working, it looks incredible. I mean, you can even kind of look at the periods of the year. I mean, the first 3 months, he was even, I remember even like the idea that he was the best opper in the world for those 3 months was being thrown around, just in terms of his level of performance.
Not by anyone who is sane.
Just by his level of performance, not necessarily like actually overall the best, but like just his performance in the first 3 months, he was the best performing opper. And when that drop off happened individually, just because stylistically you can't keep that up across any long period of time, like you're going to get punished. And when he did get punished, that's when you kind of saw him drop off, and you saw FaZe kind of struggle a little bit, especially in the second half of the year where he wasn't as effective with it. But yeah, I think most of that is play style.
I'm struggling to come up with a name.
I am too.
Torji?
I feel like I've looked at a couple of the part of it of being like the good players. What's throwing me off, because it's like taking certain players out of my even consideration.
Yeah,
Dude, it can also be like a simpler way to say it is just overrated players, like the most overrated player. Like
that sounds much worse, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I think the way you put it before sounds a little bit softer on the ear.
Well, I don't know what you want from me, guys. You can just say I don't have anyone. That's fine. We can move on. It's not like
careful, Yanko. You were on course for positive comments on Reddit this time. You were like, oh yeah, Yanko's keeping it real. Now you've crossed over the threshold. Yeah, I hate Yanko. He's too real.
No, I don't know.
Too real.
I feel like this is strange, but when I watch a team like Cloud9, I know Axel is a very, very good player, right? Yeah, but like and I know he's going to be very highly. Well, he's probably going to be highly rated this year in terms of the top 20 that HLTV are going to do. But like, I don't think that he has his big boy pants in the same way that Shiro has his big boy pants. So like for me, I would look at like an Axel as still needing to find that next like gear in really big matches, or the important matches that they tend to fucking drop the ball on. But then I have to look at Cloud9 as a whole, and then so that's where it starts to fall apart.
I was really stuck on Exile, and this one's a little crazy too. But I was stuck on someone like Zaiwu, just because they're both players that put up a ton of numbers, and you obviously know they're really good. But in the important matches where you feel like they need to have an ace game, it's like they still put the numbers up, but it's those like impactful moments where they don't really step up to the plate and go for something, significant and impactful that can change the course of the game. I feel like I'm still missing that factor from both of those guys.
Just to add, I remember I did the desk for the Ents Vitality game, the 1-2 game at the major, right? Which Ents ended up winning 2-0 and knocked Vitality out of the major. And I was talking about it because Zaiwu had a great series, great game maybe before that, or he had a good tournament up until that point. And I was saying this might be like the Zaiwu tournament in a sense of not only does he help Vitality make it like to the playoffs potentially, but maybe he has that sort of an amazing run where he can push them all the way, right? With how shaky the field has been looking, they won Pro League and whatnot. And then he goes into that series against Ents, and he has an 0.94 rating, second behind Dupree on his team, and Sam Pius on the other side has a 151 rating plus 29. He has 60-31 KD, and Zaiwu has 40-42, right? Like just the sheer discrepancy in numbers between who's gunning for the best player in the world and a guy who's like good, okay, like that's fine, and playing on a lesser team completely outplays you. And remember that Vertigo game where he just actually outmaneuvered him and had tons more impact, and you're like, well, how am I supposed to trust this guy? You know, like you then, because people compare it to Simple also many times, we've seen Simple like single-handedly push his team over the line in some of these, you know, group stage games and whatnot, where the team is struggling and he does enough to get them to the playoffs, and then they, you know, sort of become who they are.
Yeah, this is the thing, like, because I imagine when we're framing these things and talking about this, a lot of people, they don't even, a lot of the people will have just like tuned out as soon as we bring these names up. It's like, how can you fucking besmirch the name of this, you know, fucking sick Counter-Strike player? But
I just realised I'd come out on this one on top for a change. I was like, listen, Brokey, you can have that debate all day long. The Exile fans are never going to take it, and Moses throwing Ziwu into the mix is just like, he's been on the paint chips.
I'm trying
again,
to take the heat off of you, Richard, is what we're doing.
Yeah. We just need Yanko to say something, and then it'll all be fine. Everyone will be focused on him again.
It's getting
Well,
hot
I
in
have
here.
a different one. Or are you, Chad? Did you
Jane.
find
No. Hit me with it.
So I have a next one. It's a standard one, but I don't understand people's takes, and I was shocked by what it was on the Blast Team of the Year and even the award on the fucking Esports Awards. Coach of the Year. How is it Blade?
Who won it?
How is it Blade? It was Blade. For everyone, it's Blade. How and why is it Blade?
Who won
Based
last
off of
year?
What? Last year it was Blade. That makes sense.
It can't be Blade 2 years in a row.
Well,
especially
it can
with the
be Blade
performance
2
this
years
year.
in a row if Navi is the best team 2 years in a
Yeah,
row.
which they won. Yeah.
And so, can someone explain to me why is it Blade?
I think coaching still is a role that doesn't have a whole lot of good like optics on what all the various coaches actually do. So I think a coach like Blade is naturally going to get a lean to him because he's known as more of a tactical coach who's also
Great
done a really
answer.
good job over the years of bringing.
That's what I was waiting for. That's what I was
You've activated
fucking
the
waiting
trap
for.
card.
So he's like more tactical than obviously because Robban is an obvious one with the year that Phases had, right? But Blade is a more tactical one, is more involved in maybe the strategies of the team, which I won't dispute. But that's not all that coaching is. And that's not what every team needs,
I mean,
right?
but the problem is
for a team like FaZe, Robban fits the best because you want to make those personalities work, and you know different personalities, different cultures. You obviously have an in-game leader, you have an analyst that's worked with him a long time who likes to have a lot of control, so you don't need to do that with him. And that team was the best of the year, without a doubt the best in the first season, and done what no other team has done before, which is win Katowice, Cologne, and a major in the same year. Especially considering how open the field was in the second half. It's like, how can you make a case? You know who's the other guy who I can make a case for?
Cyclone.
No.
Okay.
It's the Ants coach. It's
Saul.
the Ants coach. Because first Ants in the first part of the year was really good playing a different style, which they had to play because they didn't have the individuals to play a more default style. There was more set pieces in their game, and they made a couple of finals even. They were a top 5 team for a while, way, way above what people expected of them, right? And then when they lost Spinks and they made the changes, they made a conscious decision to try to play more default style, and obviously there's growing pains with that, and still they had a couple of good results. The team was looking good again. So being able to do that and change style is obviously not easy, so it deserves something. And yes, probably Cyclone, you could put him there potentially in that group because of Mouse's run at the Rio Major more than pretty much anything else, because other than that, it was
Cologne, right? They made the playoffs.
Cologne, they made their top 4, right? I think. If I remember
Or no,
correctly.
they lost to. I think they lost in the.
No,
quarters.
they beat Liquid in the quarters.
They did.
Oh no, that was
All right.
that was Sampaius's team.
Doesn't matter, but you could put their name
Yeah.
in there, right? So I would put all those guys before Blade.
Okay. That's fair.
Well, maybe not Cyclone.
The thing the problem you've got with that, Yanko, is like I really like what Saw's done over at Ents. I really rate him as a coach. But you're getting into the weeds and like the minutiae of like if you wanted to crown like CS coach of the year, like we can have these like fine detail discussions. But when you're doing like an award for all of esports, you do get into comparisons that people will tell you is like it's not apples and oranges, but it's lemons and limes. You know what I mean? Like it's very hard to like compare like what a Dota coach does to like what a CS coach does to like maybe what a Valorant coach does.
That's okay, but let's say for the sake of the argument that let's say that we are only talking about CS, right? It's like
yeah. Well, but
how could you even judge for CS? How do you pick him? I wanted him last year. I had him last year. I don't have nothing against the guy. I
can't say too much because I'm literally on the panel. I was there for all of the discussions, and the rule is discussions are sacrosanct. You can't talk about what goes on behind the scenes. But like, so what I can talk about is criteria, and I think one of the criteria that's presented is if a coach has had to work through an exceptional set of circumstances in the year, that will be recognized by the panel. And so in Blade's case, obviously Blade had, through no fault of his own, he had what should have been an easy year of just, you've got the best team in the world. Coming out of 2021, the start of 2022, and obviously with the situation, with Russia invading Ukraine, suddenly you've got a unique set of challenges that no other coach is dealing with in the scene in terms of player rotations. Your players are constantly on the road. They have a stress level, a psychological impact that no other team is dealing with. And yet what Blade was able to do, despite that, was even though the roster was pretty beat up and had all these problems and were constantly on the road and not going home between tournaments and things like this, he was able to keep them competitive and able to get them, placements and, even some tournament wins. So that to me would certainly, instead of just looking at X's and O's and Wikipedia pages, that context for me is important and could be a reason why it was swayed over someone like Robin, for example.
I think also like Robin has the eternal problem of the fact that Kerrigan is just such a charismatic figure that whenever you think of like the leadership of the team, like your brain doesn't. Mine goes to Kerrigan, and I have to like that's the problem with like Robin's optics as a coach is. With Kerrigan there, like we don't ever get really a glimpse of what Robin is doing because we're always talking about Kerrigan. We're always asking Kerrigan the questions.
Doesn't help. He's not allowed on the fucking stage at the biggest events as well, right? That
doesn't help either. But I mean, as a coach, I also fully respect and know that Robin's probably had to do a shit ton of work to keep that team in good shape, and especially over the course of a whole year. But I don't know. For me, I think one thing that really sold it too with Blade was how seamless the transition felt as Electronic to an in-game leader right out of the gate when they made that switch and went on to win in Lisbon. I give a lot of credit for Blade for helping make sure that was going to be a seamless, and we're starting to see some problems with it as time has gone on. But I mean, dealing with the war and then dealing with the Boomich situation and not really missing a beat, and they weren't as dominant and they didn't win as many events as last year, obviously. But the fact that they were still, contending and for the most part a top 3 team across the end of the year, I think is a super impressive feat for a coach to be able to pull off.
This is why I wish that, and I know Blast is doing more of it, and I fucking love it. Is with some of these like when the mics are open, right? And we got a lot of this because we had that like Hooksy moment at in Abu Dhabi, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, where he was like, I don't care what your opinion is, right? Like, holy shit, like how the fuck did this one sneak through? It wasn't sneaking through, it was fucking live. Like, but I would love it if we could, and I know we can't have it in like fucking all of these super technical kind of breakdowns, but it'd be great to just have a little glimpse. Like if they could just offer us just a little bit of not what goes on behind the scenes, not how they approach the game, just something so we can understand what type of coach that we're looking at here. Because the only way we can judge them, other than, say, the criteria that Richard's talking about with the Esports Award, is by the results, right? And that's why I think you're having such an issue with this, Yanko, is because, by results, the coach of the year, well, it has to be Robin, right? Like, how can it not be? His team was the team of the year. So you would think it would make sense that he would get that accolade coming his way. Like, but I don't know. Like, I get to talk to Dust on a lot of these events. Like, he's very chatty with me. I like to hear what he has to say. I get kind of like a peek behind the curtain in how he helps the team function and what he brings to the table. I look at somebody like Barry from Sprout and all of this recruiting that he's done and all these names that keep coming through the doors of Sprout and what that team, who is seemingly, I don't want to say a bunch of nobodies, that's maybe a little bit harsh, but not household names by any stretch of the imagination, how much they're able to offer up and the type of Counter-Strike that they're playing there. So this is and obviously with the two of you here, right, Yanko and Jason, the two of you here, you have more knowledge about this coaching stuff than most people. So if people are equipped to be able to perceive from the outside, it would be the two of you to be able to give a bit more of a nod in that direction. Most of us are just fucking guesswork unless we can talk to players or coaches or whatever at events and hear what they have to say.
That's the other hard part is I feel like so much of the information we get on coaches is just like anecdotal information from us having a chat at the bar or at the event or passing by him in the green room and just asking him a quick question about a round or about a situation. And that's like most of the information that gets to the public about various coaches.
For me, it's like, of course, I'm very sympathetic, like with what Navi has had to go through and Blade and all of that stuff. It goes, without a doubt. And I do take that stuff into account when I make my choice. I know for last year, if Navi didn't win all the stuff on LAN, I really wanted to give it to Xtaz, because of what Vitality had to go through. First one rookie, then the other rookie, right? And having to get adjusted. We all know how terrible Kyojin is. So still being competitive with that guy on your roster certainly required some fucking, that's why Apex was the in-game leader of the year in the end for me. I put them as number one because I felt that with Navi, right, with Boomage, Blade was doing a lot. So it's he was getting a lot more help probably than some of the other in-game leaders, right? But I just still think the biggest thing that bothered me about this one was the fact that people fall into this trap because Blade is more tactical and more involved, that even without results, he's doing more, or the fact that if a coach isn't heavily tactically involved, that he's not bringing benefit to the team. And what Jason said, if you're just a fan and a viewer and it's difficult for you to know these things and for you to have that sort of opinion, it's fine, it's okay, because you don't know any better. But the people on the panel, the people who vote, us as people who do this for a living, we should know better, because that's what we're being paid for as well, is to know who contributes what and who does how much, and to be able, in the end, when you do give that award and you say, and people are surprised to say, Robban isn't like Kerrigan doing everything, for you to give them the explanation of, well, this is why, how, not necessarily all the details, because you don't know all the details, no one does, but you can get a sense of it, right? And then, of course, you would make a mention of the other people who were considered, and obviously with Blade, and say that it was very close. Obviously, the extenuating circumstances he had to deal with and the environment that he had to work in is, extremely difficult. So, but still,
is this the Blast Team of the Year? Is that the one that this is from, Yanko? Because I didn't. When that shit comes up, I
saw it. I saw it there probably while I was watching the games or something, or on Twitter. I saw it. I don't know. I also saw the Esports Award thing, but I didn't take as much into account that there's other games there, which, if anything, makes it even more weird that he would be the winner when there's people from other games. And I don't follow other games, so I don't know if, the other coaches on that list, we're doing anything super good or not, right? I can't really compare that, but yeah.
I can tell you, for me, I had a really hard time picking. I think if I hadn't gone with Blade, it would have been Cyclone from Mouse, because I think that's such an incredible job to think about what they accomplished.
He's not the partnered team. Was he even up for consideration, Jason?
At Blast? Ooh, I have no idea. I was just speaking in general. With,
you could have
put
whichever name you wanted, Chad, in the form.
Yeah, well, what they did was, I think they had an open form, and then they cut it down to 3 choices for the actual World Final. So you can people can put whoever they want, and then they take the top 3 selections across the board, and then you do one final vote on those 3. But for me, I think Cyclone was one that I really labored over that choice, considering he joined as coach in January. They didn't even find out they were going to use like JDC until Bamas got sick, like in Katowice. Then you had the whole NBK situation, and I mean, I think as a coach to be like universally like questioned and criticized as a coach coming up from an academy team to replace someone like NBK so quickly after they had just re-signed him, and just the fact that he ended essentially like an in-game leader that came from Australia to help bring him up to speed in Tier 1 Counter-Strike, while you're also doing that with 3 other players at least, and yourself to a certain extent. I think he did an absolutely incredible job in my mind.
For me, if I was going for like a little curveball pick that wasn't one of the big names, I would have gone with Exist this year. I think you know, I think for me, what he's done with Heroic, like it's mad how there haven't been more people talking about it. Actually,
but he's another one of those coaches like Robin, where you don't
so good now.
fully know exactly.
Yeah, but even he jokes about that. And to be fair, I think their vetoes are like legit. Actually, I think they're one of the few teams where I look at how they veto, and I think they do it how God intended.
Well, he's got
like,
that outside
they throw in the
perspective now. He's
curveball.
not the in-game leader in the team. He's got the perspective from the other angle, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I was fucking this up a lot over the years."
But you know, like forget the last event of the year, obviously, because they had to use config as a stand-in, and you know, no down. But you know, they obviously like runners up at a major. First at the fall final, didn't they win some shitty showdown or something as well? They had like
again, you don't win, you just kind of qualify. But yeah,
you know
they did win the European.
They placed first. Or
yeah,
whatever,
sorry, no,
know?
you can win the showdown. They won the showdown against Astralis.
Yeah, so it's like if you look at what they achieved in the second half of the year, I think Heroic, like, and obviously #1 ranked in the world as well. They got that, and you know they did it with like. I remember when Jabby came into the Heroic team, nobody was going, "Oh, great, they got Jabby. Great news, everyone!" Like no one was like. People were like, "Okay, might work."
His first event was dog shit as well. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like there was talk about buying the dip, right? There was a lot of people who were just like, "Lol, you know, this team ain't gonna do shit." So you know, betted in a new player who doesn't have a lot. And now, by the way, Jabby's fucking lethal. Like his one taps are like some Scream shit. It's actually crazy. So I mean, yeah, I think I really liked Heroic at the end of the year. I think I made a point in another podcast, since it's all we do is just endless podcasts, each other's podcasts. Yep. We've all got our own podcast. And then we're gonna, you know. What we should do is we should do podcast of the year as an award on this podcast and give it to this podcast. That would just be the perfect levels of narcissism.
Yeah.
Aren't we technically the only audio-only Counter-Strike podcast?
I had the Esports Gospel, but I just gave up because it's just like I'm going to bring it back, but I just had to quit because it was the same thing every week, and I was like, I'm fucking sick of this. I'm sick of doing it, so people can't be enjoying listening to it. But anyway, so yeah, look, back to the point. Exist would have been a good shout for me, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I like I do like Jason when you're saying, you know, he's a bit understated. I get that, but this is the thing, because he's one of the coaches who we know as a former player, right? That is not something which is necessarily easy to come by, at least in terms of top of the pops, right? As a player who's fucking won a major, who's, you know, part of that legendary NIP team. We'll never forget the 87-0. But I don't know, like I know a lot of people don't love Outsiders, I understand. But like for what Outsiders changed this year, right? You have to remember that Yakinda and Buster were part of this team this year. And
name the coach.
Dastan. Dastan is the coach.
You could have done that. That wasn't for you, chap. That was for the listeners.
They're best mates.
I think Dastan's cool.
The average fan couldn't tell you the name of the Outsiders coach.
No,
that's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, fair enough. I can see that, but I don't know. I look at the fact that they.
I need to cut you off. Richard, one pro league, right? Because it's always the desk. It was me, Trace, and Kassad, right? And I don't know what it was in the morning. We were like at each other's throats even before we went live, and we're doing a game. We're doing a game of Entropic versus someone. You remember that Entropic team with Elian, Mir, Nickelback, right? And we have a stats page for something pop up, right? But it doesn't say the guy's name, or it was like a Colex segment or something. And I just fucking throw Trace under the bus, and I'm like, Trace, who's this guy? And it was Lackey, right? But he had no fucking fucking who the player was. And it's like live on the broadcast, and he's trying to like do it. I'm like, not easily your way out of this. You don't know who this is. I'm just like fucking going at him, right? And he was so pissed. I was like, in the end, I said it, or Kassad said it, I don't know. It wasn't that big of a deal, right? No one's even watching that. It's the first game of the day, right? I'm doing Entropic for the 5th time, right? Always the morning games. But yeah, and he was so pissed after the segment. Like, he was like, dude, why'd you do that? Why'd you fucking wreck me so hard? But
you think he'd be used to it by now. But I put it this way, obviously,
it was too far for me. It was a bit beyond.
I never did a desk with you and Kassad, but that to me is the nightmare desk. I think
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I'd rather do Thorin than like one of you guys. Because, like, you know, yeah, Thorin's going to like, oh, well, where's the line today? How can I fucking tap dance on it? Yeah,
every day.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, what's that? We're going out live on American television. Right, well, I'll just throw in some geopolitical jokes, and that could never end badly, you know? So dealing with that was always super stressful. But, like, you and Kassad, because you're friends, like, when you two fucking get together and, like, gang up on the host, and I see you guys do it, and I know what you're doing as well. Like, 'cause I'm watching at home going, I just wouldn't want to be Trace right now. Like, I couldn't cope. Like, I literally would do my head in.
He's probably the only guy who can find a way to deal with it as well. But yeah, with Kassad, it's fun, man. There's nothing. There's no.
As well.
There's
you're doing
no
it.
person.
He's just not a
we
kid.
all hate.
Well, not just.
We all hate being wrong, and we all love being right about things. But I don't think there's a person who hates it more than him. Right, at being wrong. So if you bring it up, sometimes he's gonna try to like do the mental gymnastics of like fucking Simone Biles to like get his way out of it, and you just can't do it. Like, that's why I do it. Can you imagine me going back after G2 wins the World Finals and trying to find one segment from all the segments we did in Pro League with G2 where he says there's no way, there's a 0% chance they're gonna win a tournament with Huxi? And I'm like trying to find this so I can clip it and I can tweet it and I can tag him and say like, listen to this guy, what he was saying before. Like, I would never do that except for Kassad. Love you, brother.
What was the clip where didn't they get Dinko and Hawker mixed up? Who did that?
That was Pala.
Legend. He just kills the hosting game in a way. I'm in awe every time. You know,
that was the RMR or something where Dinko had to step up on the desk instead of someone. And then Pala was interviewing. Pala was interviewing at where the players were, and he was like, "Back to you, Hawka." Trace and Yanko, and then Dinko was just standing there. It's like, all right, sure, yeah. Just no one knows who I am. Even my colleagues don't know.
He was like, "Yeah, you all right? You all right, Hawker, mate?" And like, you know what I mean? It's just another guy. Like, brilliant.
Oh dear. I was gonna say I get Dinko and Hawker mixed up in TeamSpeak all the time. I feel fucking terrible that they don't sound anything like each other. It's just like young lads in here.
But he was looking at him. It's like, come on, mate. You know, I do agree with those Brits. It's like you all sound the same, so it's like, fucking hell, was this Alex or Henry?
Oh, here we go. The fucking the monotone man has an opinion on fucking accents, does he? All right, mate. Resident sleeper telling me we all sound the same. Fuck off.
Shit. We should have like kept track throughout
You're from
the year.
Wales. You don't even count.
Bro, that is true.
You
Mate,
sound
the
like
World
a
Cup
sheep
proved
half the
that.
time. What?
Fucking hell. Got tuned up by Iran. Woke up early for that game. Brilliant.
Oh shit! We should have like kept track throughout the year, but like had an actual award for like broadcast blunder of the year. Just someone
Trace would
just
win it.
Oh, I have
Trace
it.
would win
I have it. It's Trace.
It's Trace. Trace would win it every year.
Dude, I have it. I actually have that. You know how you can star messages on WhatsApp? So when I send it to our group, I have it starred.
All right, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Because it's like, well, it's on my phone.
just in time for New Year's, Trace.
No, it's because he had, you know, it was the grand final of, I think it was Pro League. So he has like for the sign off, he has like a sort of a, you know, it has it written out, a bit of a monologue or whatever. And yeah, I have it here. So it was supposed to be, hold on closely to the ones you love and don't let go. There's a reason for most everything in the universe. And perhaps you haven't quite found the ones you're looking for, but fear not, for even if you aren't ready for the day, it cannot always be night. And, the focus is on the last part. So instead of that, he said something like, but wait, I'll actually have to play it. So you guys talk.
This better be the best one, Yanko, man. You better
And
kill
if
it.
not, you win the award for best blunder of the year.
Yeah. On podcast of the year.
This is the
I'm trying to
NWSL
see
Pro
what's-
League Season 15, and I'm going to leave you with this message, all right? So hold on closely to the ones you love, and don't let go, because there's a reason for most everything in the universe. That's pretty obvious. We all know that. Like, it's pretty centralized idea. Perhaps you haven't found, the answers that you're looking for up to this moment, but fear not. Even if we go into the night, can't always be day.
Oh my god. Oh no, Trace, come on,
so
dude.
good, man. It's still so.
What I loved as well was he was doing that Trump thing of going off script. When Trump goes off script and he just throws in a completely superfluous sentence, yeah, we've got the best philosophies, we really
Man,
do.
I had tears again. I'm such a bad friend. I'm such a bad colleague and a bad friend, because he had it's like to sign off and everything. He tried the original thing made sense, but then he fluffed it. And it was just, I had tears. Me and Kassad, we had tears. We were laughing so hard because he was so mad. And you also need to understand, it's week 8 out of 9 weeks that we were in Katowice, Poland.
By
right?
yourselves.
Just at the start of the year when all the shit was popping off and you don't know what's going to happen. And just we're so happy to be done. And then it's just this.
Also,
Yeah.
the incredible implication that working in
shit.
esports is just always night. It's just always dark.
That's something I'd say.
Exactly.
I was like, wow.
He did a Richard Lewis
Came
line.
with- and then I was like, there's no way he wanted to say this. This doesn't make any sense. So I
the
just
poor
come over
bastard.
and then I see it on his screen, the note, and that he mixed it up in the end. And I'm like, oh, that's what happened. Fucking hell.
Trace is my favorite, man. The way Trace, I've never seen anyone stick the landing so I don't know how he does it. When he goes on
It's the confidence, man.
I know, it's just the charisma where it's you feel like there's going to be a car crash around the corner and then boop, he just sticks it and you're like, all right, well, sick.
Well, especially with all the fires he has to put out the whole times. But I have to say, my boy Trace, I was really impressed. He stepped up a lot for the major. I let him know that, even though he was running away, he can't handle compliments and nice things, especially from me. But yeah, I think he was awesome there, especially when
Maybe
he
he'll
couldn't
hear
hear
this.
each other or can't hear the producer. Well, he'll
What do
probably.
you mean? There was no one there.
Yeah. Well, let's not get back into that. So, what's next on the?
On the awards list.
Do I have any weird awards?
There's got to be we could probably do a dumbest controversy of the year. Like a controversy that popped up in CS that just was
okay.
so
Config one has to
fucking
win.
Stupid.
What's that? What wins, Chad?
The config one. It has to win. How can that one not win? Getting in a fight in Pascherville, Malta, and getting your leg broken
Wait,
and then
so
getting
here's
fired.
a question
How can
for
that not win?
Here's a question for Jason. Do you feel like dumbest in terms of that was actually the dumbest, like the config thing that happened and that was a controversy, or are you referencing something that was made out to be a controversy and it really wasn't?
I was thinking something made out to be a controversy but really wasn't, but we can go either way with this one. It's not like we've got these fully mapped out. It's like,
Oh man,
I
there
like
was
the
so
latter
many.
more. Because the first one is more obvious. Well, it's not the only one. There was a couple, right? I don't know which category would the Modesty smoke bug fall into? Would that fall into
well,
the
that's
former or the
definitely
latter?
the ladder. Yeah.
That just falls into its own subsection of bitter Brazilian fans whining about everything. So
We could
Right.
have that. That would be a
come on,
subcategory.
Chad. You don't have to pander to them now. Come
Chad,
on, come along for the
how
ride.
much
Chad.
Brazilian
Come along.
viewership do we have? What's our percentage?
I don't know. I'll have
Let's
to
get the
check on
demographics.
The
fucking
biggest major
Spotify.
of all time, guys, for sure.
Let me have a look. Let me
The
have a
biggest
look.
podcast of all time right now.
I'm gonna have a. Oh shit! I don't know.
We need to record this podcast in a bigger stadium, lads. It's just, because
Sell more
honestly,
tickets for it.
yeah, we need 50,000 people listening to this.
This might be our most listened to podcast if this shit fucking kicks off the way it might. It'll get translated by Draft GG if something I said incorrectly, and then for fuck. Every time they
Here it
do
is.
that, man, fucking hell. every
Mate,
time.
they just make mine up. Like in Russia and Ukraine websites, they just make up things I never said. So at least they're mistranslating you. Like with me, it's just a Richard Lewis calls Blade clown. Like, when? When did that happen? Like, it never happened. It just didn't happen. Death threats for like 2 days from like angry CIS fans. Like it was like, what the fuck?
What do we got? 1% of our listenership is from Brazil, so I think we're okay.
All right.
But those are the most hardcore guys.
Yeah, that's it.
Out to the T.
The ultras, the ultras.
The tribe. That's the tribe.
You're in trouble, Chad.
So what else? Quite seriously, or not seriously, because this is quite a funny topic.
What the controversies were throughout the year.
There's so many, man. I know, there's not. If there were a comprehensive list,
Moldgate?
I would pick out.
Moldgate was so fucking dumb.
Yeah, that
Was that a real controversy?
That was probably it. Just for the fact that it actually got named Moldgate. Like,
Oh shit! I love
What I
seeing
love
on
about
the
that is it
Instagram
made
page.
Maltese news.
I know, the Maltese travel news. It was so
It made
ridiculous.
Maltese news.
On
There it is
Instagram,
on
like,
I
as
love
well.
Malta.com or whatever the
I
fuck it was.
don't think the poor fucking hotel manager realized that he was about to talk smack on Simple of all people with like 2 million social media followers.
also, a Ukrainian person
Yeah.
at the time. You're like trying to go against them about anything.
Yeah, and well, I mean, and on top of that as well, like just like again, there's something like there's got to be something sacred about like 'cause again, we've all done it. We've all got to the hotel, and it's like I can let the cleaners in today and not have an extra 2 hours in bed, or I can take the 2 hours in bed, bank that, and I like my fucking club sandwich that I ate last night is gonna fucking be on my table all day. These are the trades of live event work that you're working with.
It's a tough one. It's a
every
tough
day.
life.
Yeah, it's always a big decision. Bank the sleep, or and have a bit of a stinky room, or whatever. So I totally get it. But when the fucking hotelier came out and fucking said like we've been trying to get in his room for like 2 weeks. And he just sandwiches everywhere and plates. And I was just like, oh my God, like, don't do him like this. Like, he's a
All right, I
guest,
got
yo.
another funny story. I don't know, this is just coming naturally, right? Another one involving Katowice, of course. Kassad
go.
and everyone's favorite Vienna Easy Hotel. So Kassad had that sort of situation, Richard, where he was like, we came back from the broadcast day and he's like watching something in his bed. He always picks up like a bag of M&Ms on the way up, right? And he's waking up the next day
Peanut
to go to
or
work.
what are we talking?
I don't know. And then he's just like, he's a bit late. His alarm, he woke up on like the last alarm or something. So he's quick, so he's not late. And he realizes there's like fucking brown stuff all over the bed.
Oh no!
And it's because the bag of M&Ms was open when he fell asleep,
Oh
and then
my
some of them
God.
fell out. And as he was rolling over the bed, he rolled over some of them, and they smeared all over the bed and the fucking linen and whatnot. So then he was like panicking because he wants to let them clean his room, right? But how does he explain that he didn't shit his bed? Right?
Just a dirty protest.
So he actually left him a paper note and left a bag of M&Ms next to it, and it's like, these are just M&Ms. Sorry. But then I told him, like, do you think those ladies speak English? And he thought about like going to the front desk and telling them to tell them in Polish that it's just candy that it got smeared. So he just left a brown like
saying that the guy in room 328 is a sicko.
Yes, like you
Shit the bed and then left us a note that just said the guy's an animal.
But then someone just came in and saw a brown bed, and we're like, fucking hell. Not today.
Oh shit!
Good old Katowice.
Oh fucking hell! That one got me. All right, yeah. I don't know. Oh fuck me. Oh, I'm in
What's
the room.
next?
I'm in the room.
What's
No,
next?
what
Where
do you
were
mean? We
at?
haven't even tackled this one. Like the Moldgate situation. I think the bit that got me was when the players were like mentioning about like ants, and I'm like, where the fuck do you guys think we are? Like, holy shit, that one there was the one that really rocked my socks. It's like ants. We're in Malta. Of course, there's fucking ants. It's like here in Australia.
Well,
there's
you
ants
would know a
everywhere.
thing or two about ants.
Oh shit, the Harry story, but that was from fucking no. Harry with the ants. That was a couple years ago now. I don't think that one falls into our 2022. Oh, what else happened this year that was just fucking ridiculous?
Kusta returned to Counter-Strike.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, exactly. Kusta returned to Counter-Strike back in February.
What?
Who's he playing for? Wait, what team's he on?
this year,
It's a team that no longer exists, but he did come back.
If
It was the
Jason
DAP
is
team?
still riding for his man here. Like, there's still time for him to make it, guys.
I mean, he is
there's still
26.
time.
One last ride. One last ride.
Holy shit. Mate, Thelma and Louise. You've been watching that movie again, haven't you? You and Kusa.
I'm just on HL TV going through like news articles to see what stupid shit happened throughout the year, and one headline is Kusta returns to Counter-Strike on Orglis, and I don't remember anything after that headline. I don't remember anything.
Yeah, I mean, listen, by the way, if you call your team Orgless like every other team that's never had, like, fuck you. I want to just put that out there. Like.
Come on, something creative, you know? We used to come up with
Yeah.
names back in the day. Like, that was half the fucking fun naming your team. No, like, what, you think because your name's Orglish, you're going to get a fucking org. What are with these beggars out? It's like, fucking hell, man. Win something, and then you get an organization, you fucks.
Oh no!
Jesus.
Let's not get into that, Chad. Please, how you need to get paid first before you can improve if you're from North America. Because how can you improve without a salary? How can you pay your bills as a
Back in
16-year-old?
my day, mate.
What fucking bills are you paying? Never mind. Let's not.
Yeah.
go
How's
down
this?
that rabbit hole.
You know what I'm gonna miss from this year is all the interviews from Junior. Now that he's not on the team.
Yeah, they were fucking wild.
They were so fucking amazing.
Let me bring it up. I'm literally, you'll probably.
Here's a
have to keep
quote.
on it.
Right now, we are
Is
the
he
best
still on the
NA
bench?
team. Us and Liquid
Yeah.
are 50-50. That was the
Oh,
first
that
one.
was pretty good.
That was good.
That was,
No, that is
No, the other one was when he said, I think I play like the most ideal way to be an opper or something along those lines.
Yeah, I'm finding. I'm gonna find the exact.
It was
quote.
so good.
The problem is trying to find it. It's just like I've typed into Google like HLTV Junior AWPing ideal, right? Which is a pretty good, it should bring it up. But unfortunately, all it's brought up is HLTV forums, and so it's Junior is a great AWPer, Junior second best NA AWPer, Junior worst AWPer of all time, Junior is so bad, Junior copium, Junior come here, a classic. And then just Junior true.
Here it is. The way I'm opping on this team is how I think most snipers should be playing with the op.
Yeah, which, spoiler, Junior, absolutely never. Not unless there was some sort of shit tier of Counter-Strike I've never
And
seen.
then 3 weeks later, he was moved to the bench.
Yes. For the much better option of Holzer, it's got to be said.
Grim had a pretty good one as well, though, wasn't it, this year? That I think his was along the lines of... Wait, hold up. Let me see. I'm just scrolling. It was a Dust2 US headline. And his read, every other team has pressure because they don't want to be the first to lose to complexity.
Yeah, that was a banger.
That is.
That was a
I
banger.
actually love that fucking line. It's so.
Poor Grim.
I messaged Grim after that, and I was just like, bro, you gotta fucking work on your interviews. That can't be the thing you're putting out into the world.
Mate, it hit rock bottom, I think, after fucking Stewie just fucking destroyed him at the tail end of Stewie's time in
Wait,
Liquid.
the Starbucks thing was this year, right?
The Starbucks thing was.
Yeah.
That was a
Oh, yeah,
that was
there
a
you go.
pretty good stupid controversy.
Coffee
That was
Gate.
ridiculous, that one right there. Surely that has to be... Who was the French guy? I forget his name. He was the
Malik.
analyst.
Not
Now the other
the
bloke.
Oh,
the-
the analyst.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Evie.
Yeah.
E-V.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Y,
He spilled the beans, right? We don't often get that, right?
No, he went nuts.
Yeah, he let it fly. Which, look, I don't know how well it ended up for him. It's not like Stu definitely isn't painted as a golden character of Counter-Strike anymore. That's for sure. But that right there, we don't get a lot of that. That's where we slightly dipped into the like Kardashians level of drama of stuff, and that wasn't too bad. We got a little bit of entertainment out of that about 2 weeks, right? Because then Stu went and he had the stream that he did, and he was because the HLTV I think did a piece about him, and he didn't like that very much. That was one of the ones written by Note, I think it was. Well, my memory's kind of working right now.
It was like a really nice retrospective of like Stewie's career, and all it was saying was, you know, like, man, he look at the heights he scaled, and it's sort of a little bit sad that he's not going to be involved in Counter-Strike anymore.
Yeah.
And Stewie saw that, and his interpretation was it was some sort of vitriolic attack, and he was just like on his stream going like, just talk about somebody else, man, like, how dare you, I'm only like a public figure that's like super vocal, and, you know, fuck off, dude, grow the fuck up. So yeah, he had a complete meltdown over that. There was another little controversy brewing, actually. He got caught doing the American Classic. He like he was like streaming and did the accidental DM leak.
Oh.
And he was like slagging off Brax, saying if Brax is going to be in my Valorant team, I won't waste a second on a player like him. It was like,
Damn.
I thought they were mates.
I didn't know that one. Yeah, that's why it turned into the controversy.
Yeah, stirring the pot a little bit right there. Okay,
Damn.
okay. There was the config one is an actual controversy. That one does that one cannot fit in this.
You know
category.
what's a controversy when it comes to config? That he is feeling more motivated than ever for the 7th time this year, and like
Yeah,
probably the 35th time in the last 3 years. Like
I was
he's
talking
turned
about that at Abu Dhabi.
It's almost at this.
he's like me in esports retirement.
You guys should do like a Johnny Farnham type tour.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, like, no, I'm quitting for real this time, guys, for real. And config's going to be the best player in the world for real this time.
It's
And not
Yeah,
an
but it's
asshole.
like it's at this point. It's like, dude, it's fine. If config comes back and he succeeds and he's changed, I'm rooting for him, man. Like I don't, I have no stock
not
in
me.
whatever config does or doesn't do. But it's like, just shut the fuck up. Stop talking about it. Just get. You know who had a big, or on a much larger scale, who had the same problem was Smuya. He was always like talking and tweeting. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this now. I found a way. I found this trick. That's my game is gonna go up 100%." It's like, dude, no one cares. Just if that happens, we'll see it on the server. Like, I don't care what you have to say. I don't care about your comments. I just care about like what you can show me playing the game, right? And what can you do for your team. That's all that matters.
The best about the config thing was like he gave that interview to HLTV when he was announced as the heroic stand-in, and it's like, I live for this game and I'm here to prove something that I've proven so many times over and over again. And then he gave a separate interview like 3 days later to like a different, like just a random publication, and the quote was like, "I just think it's insane that I still have to prove myself within this game." And it's just like, are you listening to
Maybe
the words?
bipolar.
I don't understand it. It's just back and forth.
I don't want to go too deep, like in terms of breaking down the psyche here, but it sounds like it's more for himself. Like is he trying to convince himself, right, that
hyping
this is the
himself
path
up.
he's on, and right? Which look, because he's not a kid anymore, right? Like at some point, and that's the thing. When you mentioned Smuya, yeah, okay, maybe I can bring that age factor into play at a certain point, but he doesn't get the same good grace as like English is. That's his first language, right? So you don't get the fuck ups of saying the wrong thing. And go, oh, I misspoke. Like, whereas some of these guys, okay, we can let them off the hook occasionally if they say the wrong thing. The language barrier can come into play. But with the config stuff, yeah, after Duncan wrote that article and then he got back on track, and I was like, oh shit, but this is the config that we all knew that could frag and really put it there. But there's been too many of these scenarios that have cropped up, right? So, and also, if you have something happen to you that's as traumatic as what did happen to him, you get your leg broken in a fight. That's not an everyday occurrence, right? That doesn't happen. Well, I hope it doesn't fucking happen every day to professional Counter-Strike players, but that happens to him, and then it's a couple of weeks later, and yeah, everything's good. I found it doesn't just happen like that, mate. Like the penny just doesn't drop like that, and you find yourself back on the right path here. It's something that you're going to have to work towards over a long period of time. So that's the one with me. I'm
Dude,
with you.
You have
Yanko.
to hit rock bottom. Like this is the point. Like it's crazy. Like how we operate in this scene. The player privilege is fucking unbelievable. Because it's like, keep in mind, like Sadikis launches a frisbee at someone, right? And dude, I'm going
For
there.
fuck's
So
sake.
get ready, buckle the fuck up, Jason.
Oh, boy.
Right? So yeah, why didn't you stop him, Moses? No, anyway. So like, look, I'll just call it real, like, right? Like anyone who's a drunken, aggressive arsehole at an event, whether you're my fucking best bud or a player I can't stand, That's not what esports is about. You shouldn't be doing that. And if people choose to disassociate and not work with you, that's absolutely appropriate, by the way, right? And I'm saying that as someone who got sacrificed on this very same altar, for acting in self-defense, where, if I just wasn't an unlikable dickhead, I would have been seen as the victim, right? So I totally get it. But on Reddit, everyone's like, yeah, fuck Sadakist. He's obviously, and then they do all the theory crafting. He's obviously a chronic alcoholic with all these problems and blah, blah, blah. Everyone does all the theory crafting. But the consensus is, fuck him. One of the best casters we ever had in any esport. I hope he never works again. As soon as Config was like, yeah, I'm going to stand in for Heroic. Oh, there's no punishment for you at all, is there not? You just get no punishment. You just waltz back into a top tier team and get a share of guaranteed prize money. And Reddit are going, yeah, Strala shouldn't have cut him. What a scummy organization, right? If you think that, you are a fucking cretin. Because here's what happened, right? He selfishly went out, got drunk, got into a fight that was fucking avoidable, not once but twice, and then got tuned up because he can't even fight. That's the worst thing about this gun, right? Like he starts trouble at all these events, and he's been doing it historically, and we all fucking know about it. And but he's not a fighter. He's just a drunk guy who gets fucking aggressive, can't hold his liquor. We all got a friend like that, right? So he does that. And he's been doing it at events, and everybody knows it. And then this time it's gone too far, and there's been some consequences for his actions. And by the way, I don't wish harm on anybody, right? I'm glad he's okay. Made that point at the time and said, it's fucking things. You want to be careful who you fuck with, especially in a foreign country where you don't have no backup, because, that could have easily been 100 times worse than just a broken leg. So anyway, he suffers no professional penalties whatsoever. He just waltzes back into a team after costing his 4 teammates the chance to play in a major. And keep in mind, one of them's Farlig, right? He might never get to play at another major again, right? That was his chance. But because you broke your leg before the RMR and got dropped, your boys had to play with a stand-in and they didn't qualify. So he should carry that for the rest of his life, because people don't get the majors back. You don't get the opportunities back. And instead, people are just rolling out the red carpet for this motherfucker. They're just saying, come into a team. I hope Config can, turn it around. I don't hope he can turn it around, because I know from behind the scenes he's had a ton of chances, and he is just an arsehole. So there you go. Look, there's the spice.
There is a bit of spice.
We're going to tweet that out with the link. It's going to be the...
Yeah, we should do that Dust 2 thing, where that's the quote you go with for this episode. Config is just an arsehole, Richard Lewis. And it would be, well, look who's talking, man. Look who's talking.
I'm doing it, Richard. I'm doing it.
I think the thing here is, a lot of people questioning that decision from Astralis. That's the one where you guys are drawing the line here. Out of all the decisions that Astralis have made, probably in the last couple of years, that's probably one of the better decisions that they've made.
Yes.
And people are sitting here and looking at, it's what are we talking about, guys? And
he was already on the chopping block. That's what people don't realize as well. There'd already been friction in that team behind the scenes, right? And so it was already a potential he wasn't going to be in that team moving forward. And then he goes out and does that.
Yeah.
No, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
You're being paid Chad, you get this more than anyone. It's why I always fuck with you, because you've had the shit jobs, right? You're getting paid 20, 30 grand a month to just fucking play video games. All you have to do is just keep your shit together. That's it. Just keep your shit together. You've got one of the best jobs of all time. Just keep your shit
It's our number
together.
one rule of talent life is all you have to do is not screw up for yourself.
Yeah.
And no one on this podcast has, right, guys? So
far.
Yeah,
There's still
Well,
time.
except me and Jason trying to coach.
Trying to coach.
And me.
And Richard. Chad's doing great, though. Chad, wonderful job.
Yeah, he got in a bed with fucking ESL, where the E now stands for evil. So he just slid right in there. Zero consequences for anything I do or say now. So nice one, Chad. Well done. You played the long con.
Hey, look, they were there for me in the early days, and they're there for me now, So
The config of broadcast talent, many say.
It's been a long journey. It's been an awfully long journey to this point. The thing that you brought up there, Richard, about that me having the shit jobs and stuff, and actually being home right now, that's given me a lot more perspective, because this is the first time I've been home in 3 years, and I don't think it's that I completely, forgot my roots and stuff. But it's definitely easy to, the lifestyle we get to lead when we're doing this traveling around the world. Well, we didn't for the better part of 2 years. But once things got back underway, traveling around the world, having a good time, getting put up in these nice hotels, we get paid a pretty nice pocket as well. And then coming back here, and it's not that, this is reminding me of how shit it was. I didn't have a shit job. I got to work as a plumber, not on toilets, right? I got to work on new houses and stuff. But it reminds me of like the slog and the 9 to 5 and the Monday to Friday that a lot of people who listen to our show, right? That's the way that they go about their lives. And when you're a professional player in Counter-Strike, sure, you might not have the necessary longest careers in the world, but you have a good period of time, especially if you're a good Counter-Strike player from a country like Denmark and you get the opportunity to represent a team like Astralis, right? That is all of your dreams coming true at once, right? And you can make the most of that opportunity there. And this is, I tend to struggle with the sympathy in a lot of these situations. And that's why Jason and I tend to lock horns a lot on this whole North America versus, the rest of the world kind of debate here on the time being away from home.
You can't just slide from config getting into a drunken fight in Malta into an NA thing. There's got to be a bigger transition.
I wasn't going to go on a tirade.
Config is the perfect
you can't compare those
metaphor for North American Counter-Strike. Chad is a fucking genius.
Fuck off.
I love what he's done.
That is such garbage.
Oh no.
That is such absolute garbage.
What's your rebuttal, Jason?
Had it all given to him, all on a plate, and threw it all away. The North American story. Come on in.
Well, we can start with the siege. Yeah, shall we start there? Well, then no, that was Scott Valencia stealing.
Let's not do that.
No, that was
always talk about it. Shit.
Money being stolen. So we don't need to start that. No, but Yanka, going back to your most overrated players, one, we can just throw all the North American players in
going back to an hour ago.
Just bringing it back full circle, Chad, of course.
Oh, shit. Fuck. No, I don't know. That one, the certain stuff irks me a bit. And I know in recent times, I may have been a little bit more tame in my outlook in certain things. I think that's good because I'm maturing a little bit and I'm trying to look at things from a couple more sides. But I feel like I lost myself for a little while there. What is this, my fucking therapy session? Like in terms of, I couldn't see the forest for the trees. And now I don't know. We're still... the Counter-Strike's been around for 20 years, right? We continue to grow, and we continue to find ourselves in these fortunate situations. And I think that this is what, and I know that we're the old like fucking guard of all of this, right? And we've been here for a long time, and we've seen a lot more. But I think that perspective is really important because I know that things aren't as they used to be, and things have definitely gone on. But we all know how quickly things can disappear, right? You can wake up one day and the shit's gone, and I think that perspective. I don't want to keep banging on and reminding these people about it, but it could happen again, especially with kind of how the world finds itself right now. Who did we just lose? Yanko, connection timed out. See?
Beautiful.
It could all happen right now. The lights could just turn off.
It's like you planned
Just
that.
like
That's
that.
fucking chilling.
I think maybe Yanko's the youngest out of the three of us. So he probably had enough of the fucking boomers talking about this bullshit.
Nah, it's not even that. I think it's just his 2-hour token at the LAN cafe. Let me get a top up right now. I'll be back in a second.
I thought Relog Media would be giving him hours for free. I thought he's a representative of theirs. What's going on?
He deserves it.
Fuck. Well, we lost the guy throwing out the negative award titles.
No,
so who's Richard? You gonna take? Yeah, Jason.
No, let Jason go.
I didn't have an
where we
award.
find
I didn't
ourselves.
have an award title. I was just gonna add into your therapy session. Because this year was kind of weird for me as well, and just touching on tying it into what you said. It's like I think sometimes in this industry, sometimes we forget to. We're all like concerned with some of like the weird things going on, and maybe not progressing as. Sometimes it's like you forget to like just pause and just realize that there's a whole lot of cool shit going on around you, and you forget to just like enjoy it because you're concerned with figuring out the business side of things and figuring out ways to get your ideas instituted and dealing with like, you're not dealing with the pure esports side. This is like the entire conversation around like your hobby turning into your job is now all of a sudden you have to deal with all the external factors. So I think for me this year, that was like a constant struggle to like actually remember that, this is a fun job and experience, and sometimes like the grind kind of overtakes that. And I think that's what most people forget in our industry is, man, take a moment to like really fucking enjoy how far this has come and just enjoy the moment and get lost in the excitement a little bit.
We've obviously done a lot of talking this year about how we would like to try and assist in helping things, or how things are, not unacceptable, but could definitely be done better, or these type. And I think we play an important role in being able to push back because of where we find ourselves, like with the type of positions that we hold, being like freelancers, we can see multiple sides of the fence here. We seem to be a bit of a conduit between candid conversations with players and staff alike, and you can see where some of the pitfalls that maybe these businesses miss just because of the nature of how they're structured and stuff. And we definitely got in the weeds this year of the business side of things, or how we could try and improve different things along those lines. And you're right, like it can, and this must be the case for all these people working in the bit. Well, not all of them. I'm sure the people at the very top of the totem pole have a different perspective than maybe just some of the workers who are putting all these different hours. But that's the thing. We need like an esports Thanksgiving. Right, one where not esports, Counter-Strike. I keep using fucking esports. Fuck esports. Just Counter-Strike. We can, and where we can reflect on it, because there are good things. I understand that there are a lot of negative things that definitely do transpire, but we're in a fortunate position that I don't think any of us would have manifested. Right, when you consider some of the speed bumps that have gone across the way, and we've been able to. With Counter-Strike specifically, we've been able to make it through. We even dealt with Source, right, Richard?
Yeah. Well, I go back and forth on it, man. Like real talk. Like it's kind of like, esports gave me a lot of things that I wouldn't have. Right. So and you always need to take stock of that and be thankful when stuff comes your way. Met a bunch of cool people. Like you guys, obviously, like people that we're back. User was moved. He's back, right? Okay. Like all of you guys, like, people that are like, I consider you all like genuine friends. Like, it's not just like an esports thing. We don't just see each other at events and like, nod hi and all that. You know what I mean? It's like we associate outside of it, and met people from all over the world and like super cool people, like built up an audience. Been able to get out of that drudgery in the office that I fucking hated, like, coming into work and just like, like I say, I used to sell mobile phones to people with no fucking credit. You know what I mean? So like my day was basically trying to convince people to make bad financial choices so I could get paid my bonus. And then trying to put them through a machine. That's saying they have no money. They have no money. What if we change this address? What if we put this postcode in? What if we do? That was it. It was like, and I was doing esports voluntarily on the side while I was doing that. And it was just way more exciting and way more interesting. And I used to think back in the day, if I could turn this into a living, it'd be the best thing ever. But I don't know. There's something about like the human experience where you get so far into something, you lose sight of like, why you got into it in the first place. I think that just happens, like no matter what it is. Can be esports, can be whatever you thought your passion was, and you get 2 decades down the road and you're like, yeah, fuck this, I wish I'd never done this is all bullshit, fuck it, it's fuck esports, fuck it should die, it's terrible, blah blah. But like obviously I do really feel like that, but I also recognize that it's like my brain has been fucked to think that way, like because of the collective experiences you have down the road. Ultimately, if I was to have a very sort of sober conversation with myself, I'm pretty sure there's a part of me that's still like mega grateful for it all, because the alternative would have been a lot worse for me on an individual level. So, it's like I got a bunch of cool memories from this. That's about the best anybody can sort of hope for from any experience, right?
Yeah. I think like we just got to make sure. I love it. I love a good like cliche statement, like we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater type thing, right? And I think going forward, and I don't know how we want to turn, where we want to go with our conversation right now, but like we had the chat where we were discussing ESL and Blast position and where Valve is, and like looking forward, I don't know if we're in the best position we've ever been in, but I don't think we're in a terrible position as far as Counter-Strike goes. Like, we're actually getting to the cusp where traditionally Valve would have released a new game, right? We're getting to that point where, because with Source, what was it? It was 2004?
End of 2004.
Yeah, so, and then before that, obviously, all the 1 point whatevers, right? Where we can almost consider that as one lengthy experience. CZ was was something which we can either remember or forget. It definitely had some pros. It definitely had some cons. It wasn't
gave
the
us
worst
Henry.
thing in the world. It wasn't the best.
That's it.
Yeah, that's
Right,
true.
Shield.
Yeah, that's true. And some
And
reskinned
it
models.
gave North America a WCG championship.
Thank you very much, 3D. Well, look, we'll take that one as well. But we're getting to that point where the growth now, we're entering uncharted territory, right? Because the game in the state that it's in right now, especially since the introduction of the skins and the whole economy around that, it's changed the playing field. We're in where I don't know. Like, I don't know the technical side enough, and I'm not going to fucking pretend to. I just read the shit that some of these accounts talk about, and I talk to some people who I think know a little bit more than me. I'm not a coder. I'm not even a computer guy. I'm just a guy that likes to use the PC to fucking play Counter-Strike. But we're at a point where I wonder what's next, because I don't think we're doubting the fact that Valorant introduced competition. That definitely did. But it didn't feel like there were some updates that happened after. We got an operation here, there, everywhere. But I think...
I actually don't think
expecting...
Valorant introduced a whole lot of competition.
Okay, let's explore that thought, shall we, Jason?
I mean, I don't see it as competitive in any. I mean, outside of North America, I don't. Is it really all that competitive?
Do you think it's a
in
gateway
Brazil.
drug?
I don't. I mean, maybe a little bit, maybe to a small percentage of players, but I think especially when you look at, I think the game actually feels. I mean, while it's similar, I think like with agent abilities and different agents that you can, it's so fundamentally different. And I think especially when you look at like the pure esports experience as well and the tournament broadcast, it's so fucking different from what Counter-Strike does and the kind of tone that Counter-Strike carries. I actually think the best thing that Valorant's doing is actually helping Counter-Strike in a way, because they're taking a completely different angle. They're doing the hardcore franchising. They do a lot more co-streaming. Their broadcasts are way different in so many different factors. That I mean, when I look at Valorant, I'm just like kind of trying to take some ideas that I think that they do well that might be able to help Counter-Strike and throwing away, I mean, honestly, like 80% of the things I see. But I think more than anything, it's just kind of an example going off to the side. And with Riot being so much more involved, and I think them having different priorities in terms of activating streamers and activating the community a little bit more. I think it's kind of, I think in some ways it's giving us some things that we can actually work with and a little bit of like a path that we can use. And some things are ones that we want to stay away from. But I certainly think streamer integration into the esports side of things for like the casual Counter-Strike streamers is huge that we're missing out on. I think the Galas thing obviously was a little bit of I don't know, disaster's not maybe a little bit too harsh, but I don't think it went as swimmingly as we all would have liked in Rio. But I think there were some good elements to it that can be incorporated moving forward as ESL kind of tweaks the way they do that. But I've said this on this podcast for a while now. I think streamer integration is going to be massively important. And when you see that like co-streaming feels like it essentially carries the Valorant esports, you can see the value of having those streaming personalities be involved in how we want to show Counter-Strike to the community.
Sure, but also a couple of things. What if there's a new game next that comes out that's really popular in North America, and the streamers are naturally going to migrate to that because that's what their viewers want them to play, right?
Yeah.
They go with what's the hot game at the moment. So if someone, I don't know who it is, whether it's Overwatch 3 or Apex Legends, something else, right? And they come up with a game that's in that genre, but it's much better, and they all want to play it, and the viewers want to see them play it. Well, then also the Valorant esports, if they're so dependent on that, it's going to be in a bit of a problem, right? I think what Counter-Strike has, which we can all agree on inherently, it has the simplest and sort of best game, just as a game, right? The problem is, though, I think what Valve would need to focus on, and why operations, for example, we don't care about them, but I think we can all agree that they're important for the game, is because it's for the casual viewer. It gives them something to get them, engaged with the game, and they want to complete these missions, so they get skins, and then you can convert the skins and do that and do this, right? And through that, there should be small like games in there and potentially mechanism in which they learn about the 5v5, actually, how it looks like, and maybe just tease them with it a little bit, so then they can, maybe this is actually cool, and they would go to play like a short matchmaking game or something like that as well, and see how it looks like, and try to get more engaged with actually how competitive Counter-Strike looks, right? But I think we sometimes maybe lose perspective on that because we're just involved at the highest elite tier of competition, not even like competitive Counter-Strike, the tier 1 competitive Counter-Strike, right? And that's just what, 0.5%, if that, you know, of the player base, or just the top 1%, if you want to put it like that. So I think with Counter-Strike, we have the power to retain players, I feel like, and for them to get engaged, and hopefully we can do a better job of creating content as well, making the tournaments more fun to watch. But the thing is, getting, especially in North America, people to play Counter-Strike, to open Counter-Strike as their first game and not Valorant or Overwatch or something like that, which is like more flashy maybe and looks a little bit, I don't know, maybe looks a little bit cooler to them or whatnot. And, you know, despite Counter-Strike being the better game, it maybe doesn't get as many of those players as we could potentially.
Is that the inherent problem with America, though? They just have fucking short attention spans. Sorry, Jason. Like,
What were we talking about?
yeah, there we go. Like, I don't know. Richard, you were into the fucking politics and shit for a while there, right? Like, I did.
Yeah, let's bring that up. Yeah, let's go.
Let's
get it off out of the open.
What a fucking casual way to just throw
Jesus
that. You know,
Christ.
But it's all
I'm into
entertainment,
politics
right?
at
Like,
some
this is the
point.
thing.
You see what I
America,
deal with, Richard?
Their biggest
Oh, listen,
export
I
is
get it now.
entertainment. That's it. What else do they got?
Look, you know, America. The problem with Americans is they just treat everything gets, you know, refracted through that lens. You know, they distill everything down to like entertainment, which on one hand is really good when we're talking about things that are
Supposed to
frivolous.
be entertainment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I mean, it's like, you know, you know, I was talking about this the other day, unrelated, about, you know, esports broadcasts and how you watch like an American sports broadcast and what they do on the desks and how analysts really get into it. And it was like everywhere, you know, everywhere else in the world is doing these like really stuffy, like you make a point, I make a point, you go down the line, everyone gets equal talk time. You get in, you get out. Meanwhile, you put on an American broadcast and you got, I don't know, like Colin Cowherd, like screaming in someone's fucking face about how, like, you know, like just some really stupid, contentious opinion that he's decided, I will die on this hill because it'll make for good television. And you know, you mimic that model in like a sports broadcast. It's great, and they started doing it like over here on Sky Sports, with like, you know, Roy Keane, Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, Micah Richards. They're like a goated. They are like god tier. It's the closest we've ever had to like inside the NBA on like a British sports broadcast. It's really good. So yeah, Americans, when they do entertainment, they get it. Wicked. The problem is when you start treating politics like entertainment, and it's like the red team and the blue team. And it's like, nah, I don't know. It has to be a little bit more important than this, guys. No. This is what we're doing.
But
Lowest common
name
denominator.
another political culture that is fun to follow as ours, Richard.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's fun in the way.
Is that what you want to be known for, Jason?
No, not at all. It's horrifying. But
Like one of the things. So back when I was a kid, maybe Chad will come along with this one. We used to have I used to watch. It was Clive James. It was like an Australian. He's a broadcasting journalist, writer. You know, he's a legend, and he used to have a regular TV show over here. Back when what's the word, Antipodean, back when our love for the Australians was at an all-time high, you know, Crocodile Dundee's in the cinema, you know, blah, blah. Aussie exports were really big back then, and he used to do this thing where he would like look all around the world and present their television and their entertainment and their politics and weird stories, and it was fucking great. I can't remember what it was called. I think it might have just been Clive James on TV. It might have just been, and it was like, they would do like, here's a Japanese game show called Endurance, and it would be like, it's like guys chugging water like for like 4 hours, and then you have to like see who can last the longest with like an ice pack on your bladder and see who pisses yourself first. And it's like, this is insane. And then it would just segue into, and here's an American political commercial, and it would just be the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen, like just some dude pulling out an AR, you know, and like, yeah, my rights. You're just like, wow, how's this like a thing? So yeah, I think like Americans get it, and they've understood what the attention economy is for like years ahead of everybody else. That, you know, everybody, like everything you do is in a battle with everything else that exists all at once. It's just, unfortunately, they apply that to like things that have to be a little bit more important than that. So
Yeah.
that's and they'll grow out of that. Remember, they're a fledgling nation still.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, we're
Richard.
still a prison down here anyway, so we still got to get through the state of America. Australia will do the America thing soon. We'll get there. We'll have our tantrums. I don't know who's going to be the leader. We don't have anybody as polarizing as a Donald Trump at the moment, but Clive Palmer, he'll give it a crack.
ScoMo.
Tie it back into Counter-Strike for a second, because we've got two facets of this, right? And this is again, Yankee, you pointed it out before, but is the fact that we have like the tier one and the broadcast side, like the Counter-Strike that is being delivered to the rest of the world, and then you have the game that everybody's going to play. And you look at like League of Legends, you look at Valorant, it's like slot machines, right? It's just constant things flashing in front of your eyes. And I don't mean the abilities in the game. I'm talking about the new characters, the new skins, the new this, the new that. It's constantly something else, right? And that's what they have to offer up to keep people interested. But that's why for somebody who maybe played it a couple years ago and then wants to return to it or whatever, well, it's a whole new game, it's a whole new experience other than, some of the base level fundamentals, but you're having to relearn a lot of like how this meshes with that. It's a similar problem, I imagine, as to what Dota has. Like when I watch the TI every year, there's this item now does something different, or this hero now has a different ability or whatever, right? So for me, it's a bit more of a catch-up, but I'm not intending to play Dota, right? I just like watching the TI. But with Counter-Strike, and this is the thing, it very seldomly changes, and when it does, the changes, which our community thinks are fucking mind-blowingly massive. Oh, we can drop grenades now. This is going to ruin the fucking game, right? It ends up being quite a small change overall that adds new decisions and new layers and a lot of nuance of how people want to use something like that. That's from the game side of things. Then from the broadcast side of things, maybe we need to take a leaf from Richard's book. Maybe we do need to just be a little bit more mentalist and yelling at each other and presenting these
Definitely do, by the way.
Yeah, because we need to be more polarizing on the I need to be more of a cunt sometimes.
It's not even that we have to yell or do. I mean, we have people who are naturally like disagree and have different personalities. What we need is time to showcase those personalities and to actually have time to fucking reply to what the other person said.
Yeah, true.
And just have an opinion.
How about even starting with how you set up the desk instead of two dudes fucking stood there, not knowing what to do with their hands like it's fucking Ricky Bobby, right?
I don't know what it is. Just sounds funny.
Yeah,
I'll show you.
Shake a bake.
It was back when Will Ferrell was funny. So it's a long time ago, dude. Don't worry about it. Boomer reference. But anyway, the you've got two dudes stood there, a host that's like on the other side of the room. It looks like, and then it's just again the natural way that is set up is point statement graphic, point statement graphic. It should be. You should all be sat down. You should be on a table, preferably a rounded one. So you're literally looking at each other. You've got the host in the middle of it all. You're talking across each other. You sat down. You have a jib camera that's zooming in and out. And when someone's getting contentious, they zoom in on their face to make that point. You got nice mugs or whatever your tipple is. You sat there, you're in for the long haul, and you're going to do a fucking 15, 20-minute segment about a topic, and the production are going to listen to what you're saying and go along with it and augment it with graphics and clips and everything as you need. And all you're there to do is make the point and make it entertaining. That's how you do a good sports
The E-League
desk.
formula.
Well, I mean, dude, like, put it this way. I won't toot my horn or nothing. I'll just say that desk, the way we did that, when you look at the drop-off for an average desk in an esports event, people are just like, right, I'm going to go get it. I don't want to listen to these dudes. Esports had a pretty low drop-off. We still had the dip, but, like, people stuck around to listen to what people were going to say. So that's the best you can hope for with a desk. That's when you got something.
That's also like the big difference is the really subtle one that I don't know how many people would pick up is when you actually have a production that follows the conversation on the desk and just puts up graphics on the fly as you're discussing.
I think Blast do a good job of that.
Yeah, Blast the first one since E-League finished. But everything else is kind of the conversation is centered around the graphics, which is really like handcuffing, the personality
Guys,
side.
You're forgetting something here. We're obviously fucking terrible at free-form conversation. It's not like we used to do that before, I don't know, everything fucking... Why did it all change? Everything was better before. Why did it all change? Remember when we used to do desks where we would just have to fill, and that is, I remember we did these like Starlighter desks or these like Epicenter desks or whatever.
Be like a
there wasn't a fucking
delay.
run a show.
Yeah.
It was just fucking talk. And we'll throw shit up on the screen, and then all we did was talk, right? It wasn't like it. Yeah, look,
It felt
we've
more like
almost had
this podcast than like the shows that we're doing today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's because not
And I
only
think
are we
that's a
going
good
from
thing.
graphic. I agree, and not only is it because we're going from like graphic to graphic, but it's also sold sponsored segment to sold sponsored segment, which have been so poorly thought out that we're just that is the bit that irks me, right? That's the bit that fucking gets me is like, yo, just chat to us, and we can help you integrate something that's a sales thing, so that it actually either flows with the show and makes sense, and then we're not just crowbarring it, or do it the way you did it with E-League, Richard, which I fucking love. Just the top of the show, and this segment here is brought to you by da-da-da-da-da, and it's done. And then it's fucking out the way, and now we can do whatever the fuck we want. Everybody knows this sponsor name's just been noted, and now maybe there'll be a little bit in like the fucking scrolling ticker at the bottom, or there'll be like a lower third that comes in for it or whatever. But we're trying to do these segments, and we're going to try and, again, pull the wool over everybody's eyes and try and make them think, now that we've just crowbarred this thing in here and we have to talk about this because the sponsors paid for this time, that it actually has any relevancy to what we want to do.
What sponsors want most of all, by the way, is to be associated with any segment on a broadcast people actually give a fuck about. That's the real talk. Like the reason Arby's sent Mr. Arby, the fucking guy.
Oh yeah, the
that
head
founded
guy.
it.
That was fucking crazy.
Yeah, like literally the fucking head guy, was because we did integrations where we weren't hammering it too much on Arby's, but because it was associated with good content, you had fucking people chanting, "Let's go Arby's!" Just
in the
they're
studio.
doing it. Yeah, they're doing it in the studio, unprompted. The fans are doing that. And this guy can't believe it. This guy's like, what the fuck? Like, I've never been to a sports event where the fans cheer the name of the fucking sponsor. What the fuck is this? You know what I mean? Let's go Nike. You know what I mean? It doesn't happen, right? So, and that was just predicated on the fact we were doing really cool shoulder content. And like you say, Chad, we would get into a segment, And yes, this is the E-League Sports Desk brought to you by Arby's. Mo, why was Kusta so bad? And boom, you've got Mo bullying a kid on stage while he cries, and it's just all these like iconic little segments that are associated with it. And so people, that's what sponsors want. They don't want you crowbarring in. Gonna stop you there, Yanko. Just want to say as well, the MVP was brought to you by DHL. Right, what were you saying? No one wants that, man. That sucks balls.
Here's also, I remember, because when E-League originally launched, you were there, Jason was there, Duncan was there, me, Chad, Alex were still doing ESL tournaments, right? So, and I know you were getting some shit as well early on for your, because you delivered it, Justin. I remember when I was working with you, actually just had those fucking cue cards when you just say it like you would hear it in a sports game. And it's like, that's the fucking easiest way to do it. And the best way. It's like like Chad said, you get it done at the top of the show, and then you have your time. And I remember Alex constantly trying to figure out a different way to talk about the score esports. And I was like, but why? I mean,
yeah, but they were a terrible sponsor because they used to be like, just read the card, and it's like, dude, I'm reading it 20 times or broadcast. Like, are you give me something, give me some wriggle room, dude. But no, they won't. They're like, nope. You just read the card. Say the exact same phrase the way we've written it. We've cleared that with legal. It's like, if you're that type of fucking sponsor, like, lick my ass. Like, it's so bad. Like, it hurts the ear. Like, fans get sick of that. It's like, who are them motherfuckers now? Like when you one of them grid tournaments or whatever, and you have like it's probably not grid, but like one of those like tournaments where it's like they have to do the fucking reads every they've got to do 20 a fucking map. There was a thing about it on Reddit.
I remember a while back, when they had like what the obligations were for the casters. Yeah. And it was something unreasonable.
So every round they gotta say, right, we're gonna get into this round brought to you by fucking Jif peanut butter, and it's like, guys, like this is too stupid now. This is like beyond a joke, like. Like, what, do you think I'm more likely to buy your fucking peanut butter if you say it 40 fucking times? Nah, fuck you. And next time I see a jar of that shit, I'm going to smash it to fucking smithereens and never want to hear it again. You can go too far with advertising, you know what I mean? Like, drive people crazy.
I feel like we were in the sweet spot, Yanko, when you're referencing that time, because we weren't overloaded with sponsors back then, but the ones that we did, like, we would try and either alley-oop the next throw to Alex because we knew where he had to go, right? So we would leave and mention such and such player, so Alex could just and then get into that next thing to make his life easier than having or with a sponsor as well. Like, I remember, and that kind of became a bit of the game, right? A bit of the fun. It was part of the job in the sense that, we're not only just here to talk the counter, we can also try and help. And then it is just, this to this to
and
this
it becomes
to this.
tongue in cheek for the viewer as well, because they know it's kind of being played up, and they actually start to enjoy it. And then the really funny ones get posted on Twitter or on Reddit, and then you get that actual community connection to the sponsor, even though it's a joke you're doing.
Chad, how many times did you have a run of show in front of you when you were doing a desk back then? Like almost never. Like never or almost never, right? Like I couldn't imagine doing like a desk segment unless it's like, pro league without a run of show, because there's so many things in it, right? Like, and the problem is like I want to talk about this one thing, but because like 3 assets down the run of show, we're actually listening to an interview with that guy, or we have something in reference to that, I have to wait until then. Like you can't blow your load too soon. Like it's almost like scripted kind of, right? I mean, you can, you could do it, but then it would just look bad. Like it would feel out of place, and it would look bad.
Tell me about it.
So it's like, why does this keep happening? And you asked that like 2 minutes ago, and I'm like thinking, because there's some guy who came from God knows where, who's like at the highest position in the company, who's making these decisions, who was never at like an arena tournament in Counter-Strike, who doesn't have like 20 hours in the game, who, I don't know, like people who are so out of touch, but they've seen how the fucking Super Bowl looks and how their broadcast looks, and they're like, yes, we want to be that, so our broadcast needs to be the same, which is like so out of touch.
We do still have way too much of people who want to be like the ESPN or like the esports of like ESPN esports, or they want to be like BBC or Sky Sports except esports. Like that's they're way too many times.
These are sports and shows and things that have been around for decades, that have been happening, and we would be foolish not to take things from them or learn from them or whatnot. But, just because they're the biggest sport, and because of the biggest sport that is the biggest show, doesn't mean we have to emulate that and be exactly the same to grow.
Yanko, what I really hate, more than anything, more than Moses, is when they take one idea. NA apologist, can't stand it.
What the absolute fuck? This is how it started.
Come on,
this is how it started.
Talking about E-League brought it back to me. You had to catch a stray. So anyway, right, what I hate is when we take like one idea that we know has like value because we've seen sports do it or whatever, and then we just hammer the shit out of it on the show. So, recently Kiss Cam, right? Like, fuck off with that, right? But also like just this thing where at the end of a round, some guy saving this like boils my piss like nothing else on planet Earth. A guy is saving and people are hunting for him, and right now, especially in this god awful version of Counter-Strike, we're all playing the worst it's ever been. In any version of Counter-Strike, saving is super important. So when someone's doing it, don't pull me out of the fucking game. Right, so I can watch a fucking player go nice and do a fist bump for the 500th fucking time. Like it's some sort of ritual you have to do. Like, stay in the round. It's important. Like the amount of times, and this is like ESL, it's Blast, it's everyone. The amount of times you miss an important save or someone gets killed after time or whatever it is because they want to have that shot because they think, right, let's get the player reaction. Players are fucking brainlets. They are boring. They're going to say nice and do a fist bump. You will rarely see anything. Maybe if it's Apex in a clutch or if it's Nico having a rage, I get it. But the average player is going to go nice, do a fist bump, and we're going back into the round. I don't need to see it every single time. What I do need to know is, did he save that AWP? Did he save that rifle? Because that's going to have an impact on the fucking game. And that's what I'm watching.
Yeah, I did notice at Blast of It, Jason, you were having to explain away some of those situations, which is obviously
unusual.
most times we find ourselves with GoTV access, but I know not everybody uses GoTV when they cast, which is everybody to their own. But like that kind of stuff, it sucks. Like, and I know I found myself during Pro League. I think the last season, having to talk through maybe sometimes like the first 15 seconds of a round when action, like in Banana, was going down, or maybe, oh, yeah, we've just missed that opening kill, but I can tell you it happened in second, and that should never happen because, yeah, Richard's bang on. Like what people are tuning in for at the end of the day is to just see the match itself, right? Everything else is kind of window dressing.
The human emotion should be used so sparingly. Like, because if you're doing it every time, it has less and less impact. It's why those iconic moments are so important, because generally it's like when somebody like does a clutch or that matters. That I want to see that. I do want to see, but I don't need to see a player reaction every round. I just simply don't. It diminishes everything else you do on a show. And if it's at the expense of important in-game information, it is a cardinal fucking sin. Like, I don't know what's going on in these production rooms, but I see a Reddit thread about this every time a tournament's on. And I know you read Reddit all the time. That's the only place you get your fucking feedback from. Well, it's got so bad, by the way. ESL treat the subreddit like it's a fucking survey shop. They just put a survey up after every fucking event. So it's like, I know you're reading it. So why are you not implementing this feedback?
I mean, you know what it is at the end of the day. I mean, it was really unusual at Blast at the World Finals, Chad, like you mentioned. I was kind of surprised to see that happen a couple times, but I think they got him caught up to speed pretty quick. But otherwise, it's not the same people every time. That
they're gonna make the problems, Jason. Though they're gonna have the same problems as what ESL did in that period. I can see the writing on the wall now,
sure.
right? And we can so for people who maybe missed the memo on how all this works, especially for a company that's on the smaller scale like Blast is at the moment, they can definitely upscale at some point. But right now, you put on your good Counter-Strike events, and then you'd put your toe in the water and you run a Fortnite event. And then you put on another good Counter-Strike event. And then, well, guess what? Another big game company, like we're going to have Rainbow Six run by Blast next year, they come knocking. So now your resources are split. So now you're doing a whole lot more, and you're overworking your staff. And your staff now, well, they've never had to manage this workload before, and you're still expected to put on the same quality of event. And then while you're expected to put on that same quality event, maybe they overlap. So you take your best people from your Counter-Strike event and you put them over on the Rainbow Six event because that is a white label event paying all the fucking bills. Whereas Counter-Strike, well, you're paying that out of pocket. And then, well, guess what? This is slowly going to mount and problem. And then it's going to fucking crack and it's going to break. And then people are going to see and you're going to have the same issue as what ESL had a couple years ago, right? When everything fucking went to shit. What was that? The 2015, 2016 period of ESL where they were just the fucking devil because everything they did was wrong. But that's because it was a culmination of all these things. And Blast are now slowly taking on more and more of that load. They're looking for more and more games to run because they got to pay more and more of the fucking bills because, well, when they tried to take some money, the people at home jumped up and down, right? Like, they're going to find themselves in this position. And I'm seeing it over the last two events and nobody's talking about it. And that's fine because they run the best production. That's all good. But your players, they're not saying shit. But when I go back and I scrape the logs on the in-game and nobody talked about the technical issues of the last two Blast events and how long we were paused in those games because everyone's still drinking the fucking Kool-Aid, when you look and you see that there's server issues, and I'm not putting that on Blast. I don't know who runs their servers. It's probably very much so Face It. But then, okay, the question still needs to be asked. Why are we having server lag issues? Because I'm telling you, you can go read those logs and players are complaining about lag, right? Whether it's loss, I don't know what it is, right? We're going to need someone to come out and say something, but the people don't say shit, right? The players don't tweet about it, right? Because they're very happy with the way that Blast looks after them. They get single rooms, they get this,
fucking
they get that.
Business class tickets for the World Finals paid by
Precisely.
the Abu Dhabi Emirate.
They're not gonna bite the hand that feeds them in that regard, that looks after them well. But in the server, when we're having lengthier pauses and we're sitting here and everyone at home is going, okay, well, this is a little bit unusual for Blast, and then they don't come out and say anything because a ruckus isn't being made because they're not the devil at the moment, which is ESL. Blast were the devil a couple years ago. We all remember, right? With their format, nobody liked it. Everybody fucking hated it. And they were the bad guy then. This just is cyclical. And now it will just go between the two of them, right? A couple years, ESL will be the bad guy. Then a couple years, Blast will be the bad guy. And that's just going to continue. And they'll just cop their lashes. They will. The thing that irks me about this is when players will complain about something on one side, but then will not go and complain about it on the other side. That's the bit that pisses me off. Because it's like, why? Why are you not coming out and saying, like, the thing that you as a player should want guaranteed 100% of the time is for the server conditions, which is one of Jason's favorite sayings, to be perfect. That's what the game is being played. The PCs, the monitors, and the quality of the server, right? Your ping, not having packet loss, not having any of that, that needs to be the bit that is smoothed out. That should be the bit that where we have either very, very few, and they should be completely unforeseen, like fucking power going out or Valve pushing an update that's going to cause an issue in the game that nobody fucking knows about. Those are the ones there where I'll go, okay, yeah, that's moderately acceptable. However, if it's shit like it's just bad networking in a venue, right? Or if it's bad servers that are either being hired or run upon, that's an issue, and that should be spoken about. That's the playing field that is a problem, and that's where you want if a round is lost because you fucking spiked a packet loss and but that's bad. That is bad. It doesn't get spoken about, and that right there for me, I don't know. It just, I don't want to be fucking Nostradamus here, but if things for Blast right continue to compound and they don't expand their workload, they don't expand their workforce to help with the workload, I think they're going to have some of the similar issues as what ESL did, like a couple years ago. I'm talking 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. And I don't want that to happen because I think Blast run right now the standard of the broadcast that we should be holding everybody to, because I want Counter-Strike to be viewed in the best possible way. And that's the bit that worries me a little bit, because if their standard drops, that means that ESL don't need to get to that standard. And that's bad. We don't want that. We want them to have to get to that standard. So, yeah, I know I just went on a bit of a rant there, didn't I?
That was good, though. It was heartfelt. It felt like you practiced it. I think you nailed it.
It's one of those ones where everyone on HLTV goes, Chad's so passionate about the game. Thank God for Chad. I love Chad. It's one of them. So, you've done it again, mate.
Thanks, man.
No, I mean,
I work hard at those.
It's the classic like lifespan of like a new Counter-Strike property. I think I've done like E-League when it first started, DreamHack Masters when that product first started. Like, I think I've been through so many like new attempted like studios coming in or production coming into the space and starting a Counter-Strike league, and it's the same timeline they've all gone through, where it's like established that you're a badass, have to do like the really good production with less resources. We saw it at E-League each and every year, like less cameramen, spinny desk was taken away, lights didn't flash as much, like just things like scaled down over.
Spinny desk didn't make the first fucking season, dude. Spinny desk was like the first casualty of war.
Did you ever
right?
hear how much that spinny desk cost to just have for like a day in that studio?
Yeah, wasn't it like wasn't it like something like 70 grand or something?
Just to like have it for, it was so mental. But it was awesome. There's not many happier memories than spinning on that desk to start a show. But yeah, like even like DreamHack did the same thing with Masters. Was like the first one was great, and then the next one is scaled back. Next one scaled back a little bit more. And I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna put some faith that Blast will be able to handle it, especially in terms of their production staff, just because I mean they have the best producer in the business. He's incredible, and he's got a lot of experience in typical things. And I know he's a kind of guy that's gonna fight to make sure his production staff is always good to go. And to be fair, in Dubai, I think this was the first time I saw him do it. For those long days that they have to start the tournament, the 2 best of 3 days, they have like they put their production crew in shifts, which I know is not going to seem that crazy of an idea, but it doesn't happen nearly as often as you'd think. So they're kind of like recognizing and tweaking ways to be able to kind of alleviate some of that crazy pressure on their production staff.
Well, I wanted to lay that groundwork. I think I either mentioned it on this podcast or I mentioned it on HLTV, but like trying to lay the groundwork that I think like I want Blast to run a banging major, right?
Yeah,
I definitely want it to be a fucking banging major because I think that they can definitely change the way that maybe not change the way that we view majors, but elevate it, right? But I wanted to lay the groundwork that maybe people need to be kind, especially during the RMR process, because that's more teams than they've ever fucking imagined having to run an event for. We need to be like, give them a little bit more wiggle room than you would in ESL. They're just not the same scale. Like, they haven't dealt with this before. It's a whole new beast.
Yeah. That's
nah. At the end of the day, you can't handle it, don't fucking pitch.
Okay.
You know what, Chad? He's got a point, because when I opened up giving Blast some forgiveness on the schedule at the start of the show, you made the jackass comment of, feel bad for the guys who pitched for the major. And now it's all, give him a break. Nah.
Yeah, see what I mean? Chad's doing that thing where it's like, whichever way the wind blows, Chad will be there.
I just wanted them for the group stage. I want the thing. That's their bread and butter. The major, it's new. Right?
I think what's going to be, what I'm most excited about at this major is they're going, I have no inside information. I haven't talked to them about any plans of the major. I'm just saying this from experience working for them. There is going to be like something new that's really, really cool that's going to to be really, really creative, like a way to tie in the venue or the city that we haven't seen done before. Because I know that's always been like a priority of theirs, is to have like a unique way of either marketing the event or advertising it or involving some aspect. So I'm excited to see what it is, but I think there's going to just be like one big thing that they really try and kind of blow your mind with of some kind of integration with Paris, or I would imagine that's going to be something to look out for.
Predict it now.
Shit, it'll be something with like the Louvre, I imagine. I have
what
no
is it?
idea.
Macron's gonna be there, bro, and I fucking hate that dude. He's a piece of shit. Fuck that guy. I don't give a fuck. What are you gonna do?
I don't know enough about anything to
I
have
bet
an
he'll make
opinion.
a speech, because I think he had what, the Vitality jersey. I heard he like tweeted himself in a Vitality.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude. Like, there's not. What pisses me off as well is it's like despair for the youth of today. It's such a boomer fucking thing. But man, what happened to like kids are going? Oh wow, look, my favorite politician is into esports. You should hate that shit. That means esports is over if the politician's here. For fuck's sake, have a bit of pride. Like, you know what I mean? Oh, Macron and the Vitality, there he is with Z. Fuck that guy.
Well,
You know what I mean? Like, he's a politician. Like, you should be pissed off about them coming in, like, our little thing.
remember the Danish Prime Minister in the Royal Arena?
Yeah. Wow, dude, that was cringe.
Wasn't that 27? No, wait.
That was way back.
Who was there in
It was like
2017?
That's
17 or
2018,
18.
I think, wasn't it?
What about the one at Antwerp, where he said to Shocks, like, can I have a selfie? Like, you remember that?
What was that? I don't know that.
Wait,
That
what?
happened in Antwerp, right? There wasn't, like, the mayor of Antwerp there or some shit? And when she was on stage, she introduced him? This definitely happened, guys, unless...
I wasn't there. I can't speak to anything. I didn't.
Well, I was
Yeah,
there,
well,
but
yeah.
I wasn't there either. So.
Obviously.
We were in the No Majors Club and we couldn't watch
I
that
was gonna
shit.
say,
So.
like, PGL were like never hiring that Moses guy
Exactly.
again, troublemaker.
Or anyone who's close friends with him, so I'm fucked.
Yeah. No, but like, I'm the fucking. Come on, guys! Surely you watched the major. They,
I didn't see the mayor
It was.
portion of
I'm
it.
sure it was the Antwerp mayor. I'm sure he came out and said, you know, basically like, can I have a selfie with you? Like while she was on
Why
stage
is
doing the
that his
speech.
voice?
I don't know. I'm switching it up, mate. It's an audio podcast. There's no visual component to this. So, you know,
and you
people are
dissed
like,
their
oh my
voice
God.
earlier, so
Yeah,
and when I say
yeah,
there, I
exactly.
mean the British people.
Those old.
I'm sure that really happened.
Those old V4 Future festivals, whatever it was called in Budapest.
Put your cans in the
Yeah,
air.
well, no, not that one.
That was Counterpit.
Oh no, that was
Counterpit.
or
But
whatever.
like the
Talking
V4 Future
Counterpit.
Sports, I think it was called, and I did like 2 of them in Budapest, and both of them were like were just paid for by a political party, and just started as like a politician would just come in and make like a rally speech to the crowd, and then he would leave and the Counter-Strike would
Gaules
begin.
is here. Gaules is here. This is just for Brazil. It's just only for Brazil. Fuck the rest of the world. Whoa. Hold on, homie. Like, time out a minute. Like,
Hold up a second. The major was on during the election. Did anyone know what was
Yes.
being said?
yeah, dog. Like, so that's what I'm like. I mean, dog. Don't get me wrong. I think by the time it had rolled around, I think it was sort of done and dusted.
Yeah.
Like,
I was trying to make some bad conspiracy, but this could be real.
No, but like, dude, obviously, like it's every made like sporting events. You know, like why would a politician choose to be at one and not another? Why would a guy from this party go here and not there? That shit's been going on in America for like, you know, it's a tale as old as time. You know, so it's like, yeah, obviously you're gonna get that in esports now. It's gonna be so awful because I know Macron said, when the major was announced, he was going, yeah, we're going to turn France into a hub for like all things esports or something. He said something like that. They wanted to, he said it wasn't just a major they wanted. I think they were even talking about maybe pitching for a TI one year or some shit. It's like, oh God, for fuck's sake. Like, you fucking weirdo. Married to your teacher, weirdo. Fucking,
Wait, what?
you know, and you get.
We all thought
Yeah.
about it, Richard. Like we all fantasized about it at some
I
point.
mean, on the one
He
hand,
just
is he a
made it
weirdo
kind
or
of.
is
He
he
just
living
lived
the
it
dream?
out,
No,
which is a
he's a
bit
weirdo.
creepy.
He's a weirdo. It's creepy. But anyway, yeah. So he's like he's gonna be there, like, you know, for all the kids, like representing the Renaissance Party, whatever the fuck they're called. It's gross.
As long as it's in English in the arena, you know, that's all I'm looking for.
Well, isn't that the thing? Didn't Moses announce it to everyone on Twitter that it was definitely 100% going to be on English?
He did tweet
That's like
something
what I
about
remember. I
it.
don't know.
Rat
like,
of the
did he
Year
tweet
award
something about
goes
it?
to Richard at the end of the day.
No, but like, isn't it gonna, it is going to be in English?
As far as I've been, I mean, I've always been told that it's a France law, but I even see that idea being debated. But I've never done an event in France where English was inside the arena.
Yeah,
so I don't. I mean, maybe they can change that. Maybe, I mean, if politicians are going to take a more interest in bringing esports there, maybe they find a way to alleviate that rule. But I mean, the French people won't even speak English to me at like the bar when I'm ordering a beer. So I don't know how we're going to do it in the arena.
Yeah, I wonder why they won't speak to the American. Yeah, I can't.
Well, like anytime anyone goes up, it's not American. It's just if you're not speaking French, we always get we got yelled at. Man,
I was told one simple rule: just hit him with a bonsoir or a bonjour, depending on the time of day,
Okay.
and then at that point, you can be as ignorant as you want. You
I
just
never
gotta
got
at
that
least
rule.
Greet them.
I never got
Yeah.
that rule. I know
So try that
one of
next
my
time.
favorite esports story is Scrawny's from Montreal, so he can speak French or dirty French as they would term it. And even he tried to order like in his Quebecois French in Paris, and like even he got shit on. Like the chef like came around and like made like a nasty comment to him, and it was just like, oh, okay, well at least it's everyone.
Yeah, look, I try to just smile and nod. That seems to get me through it. Well, actually, that was before I was bald, so I don't know if it's going to work now. I might.
So, by the
It's
way,
a different
like,
world now
as a-
that you're bald.
Are you really having the plugs?
I've already had it.
Yeah, you've already had it done.
Yeah.
How was it painful? I guess it wasn't, right?
So the most painful thing was actually getting like the injections right to numb the head, and then once the head was numb, it was just the pain was sitting in the chair for fucking 10 hours while they take the hair from the back of my head, and then we had a lunch break. I ate a lovely kebab that they ordered for me, and then they put it in the top of my head. And now the worst part is like the regrow, the process. It's going to take the better part of a year, right? It's like 9 months before you're going to see the best results.
You've got to take estrogen too, right?
No, so no. Well,
Really?
So the way
Yeah,
that's-
dog. That's a real thing, dude.
Oh, I
'Cause
thought
it's
you were fucking
testosterone that
trolling him.
causes. No, it's like testosterone is what causes male pattern baldness. So one of the things they do if they want to stop the spread while you get the transplant, while you get the hair transplant, so I'm guessing it's new tech now, but what they used to do is, because obviously you don't want to keep thinning while your plug's growing
Yeah.
in, so they used to give you estrogen to inhibit male pattern baldness for like a year. So you're telling me you're not taking the estrogen?
No,
This is interesting.
So the new tech now, right? So you don't have to take finasteride or minoxidil, which is like basically Rogaine. The finasteride you can do topically now, and they actually have a solution which is both of them together. So the bit that sucks is I have to do it twice a day, morning and night, and then I just take some vitamins, like just fucking to promote strong hair. But the bit right now that is fucked is not. I've actually come to terms with doing the process every morning and every night. That's okay. But I'm in Australia and I can't get my head burnt, right? So I got to put sunscreen on the dome every day. I'll make sure I got a fucking hat on all the time. And this is the worst stage. No, but right now is the worst stage, right? It looks the absolute worst. Like my mum just sent me some photos she took of me at the fucking dining table while we were having a bit of a chat, and it's the worst it's fucking looked. Is because shaving, when you have diffuse thinning, which is fucking all over the top, it's not just receding. Like it looks very, very thin compared to the back and sides, which have already grown into a decent length. So I just put on this treatment every day, and it's fine. Like but I've already done a couple of podcasts, and every fucking comment is, well, not every comment, of course, but it feels like every third or fourth comment is about my hair. And I understand we're dealing with a younger audience and stuff, and they're not a 33-year-old man who's experiencing hair loss, but like it is as jarring as what I was, hoping it wasn't going to be. And that's that right there.
It's the entertainment industry, bro. It's like a lot of people. It's like they image. At least you never struggled with your weight like me. My weight fluctuates. It goes up by it can go up by as much as. I mean, it doesn't even come down anymore. So I say fluctuate.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah, well, it used to fluctuate. It used to go up and down. I'd come into a show about 235, 240, but then go up to when I was at E-League, I think I hit 260. And now I'm back at 260 basically. I'm the fattest I've been since E-League, and obviously all you ever read in the comments if you're a porker is fucking you fat disgusting pig. I had one because obviously the Hooksy fans. You know, they were all at me, and they were like, somebody sent me a hate message calling me the pigger, Chad. So, yeah, fair enough. Like, fair enough.
Shit.
So you know, it's like, obviously, like, I'm a bit more robust and I'm older. I don't really give a fuck. You know, I've just given up on life, so it's okay for me. But you know, like, obviously, when there's a lot of young dudes in our industry, and they'll never talk about it. It's not just the baldness; it's the whole image thing. Like, if you're on screen, you know, it used to be like 20 years ago. Women got heavily scrutinized, and men could just look like a sack of shit. Just like come out, and everyone's like, oh, he's so handsome, you know? Like, imagine what he would look like if he made the effort, you know? The audience would give you that grace. Now I think there's almost equal levels of like scrutiny, and obviously it affects some guys pretty badly. I mean, they call it the running. It shouldn't. You shouldn't even use this term, but it's like it's sort of a bit dismissive, but we've got like a huge steroid problem in like South Wales. Like they say it could be as high as like 1 in 3 guys who are cycling on steroids because they've become so image conscious.
1 in 3?
And
holy shit.
yeah. I mean, like, it's why like in some parts of South Wales everyone is like juiced up and angry. Like, it's fucking ridiculous. But you know, they wrap all of these like mental health self-image problems under something they just call manorexia, is like the sort of collective term they use dismissively. So we still got a long way to go on that. But like, I know guys in our industry, I know players, you know, think about all the fat players who've like suddenly got thin. And you go, well done on the weight journey. But like, some of it's really unhealthy weight loss, and people don't know what goes on behind the scenes. Like, some guys really put themselves through the ringer to just so, like, okay, now you can only call me shit at a video game. You can't call me fat and shit at a video game. You know what I mean? Like, You're never going to win the audience over. I've said it. Like, if I came out with, like, abs and a glorious full head of, like, you know, Chad Burchill hair, like, you know, post-transplant, they would just, you're still an arsehole. You know, like, it wouldn't win them round. But a lot of people are so image focused, they think, like, it hurts them. It's like poking an open wound.
Yeah, I just think because my hair was always such like a big part of the way that people saw me, right? Like, especially from the playing days, and then obviously it didn't just thin overnight. Like, it took a couple of years or whatever. But and actually, for people who saw me at the major, right? We weren't on camera a whole lot, which is fine by me when I'm losing my fucking hair. But I have a lot of hair still, right? It was long, right? There's a lot of hair there. It's just when it's shaved like this, it looks very, very thin, and it's going to take time for it to come back in. And I'm dreading having to do like Katowice, for example, and look like that to a wider audience. At the moment, it's just isolated to the people on HLTV and you know, in the YouTube comments and the forums, and that's all it is at the moment. And a lot of them, I think it's mainly just shock of, oh shit, we saw him with hair and he looked like he had a lot of hair, and now he doesn't have a lot. People would make comments before, right? But those were clearly people who were also or had suffered balding at some point, because now that's all I see, right? When I look at a man, right, that's all I go, okay, well, yeah, no, he's got a little bit of hair. Like, so those people, I assume, must have been going through either similar things or had experienced similar things to be able to see it in me when it was at that level. And yeah, I am self-conscious about the way I look. I think we all are. Yeah, I don't know. I can't now. Not
temporary hairpiece.
Not that this is done. They say not to have any like that glue or shit, or even using the fibers. They say don't use the fibers and stuff. The thing that irks me the most is when I first did it, they shaved my head in the surgery room, and I was quite content with. I was like, oh shit, this actually doesn't look bad. That was the biggest fear. And then when the head shaved, I was like, okay, yeah, this is fine. But now that it's grown out a bit, it's more noticeable now than when it was like a number one, right? Or when it was pretty close, like it wasn't a zero guard they used, but whatever the fuck they used. And now it's like much more noticeable. So now, like, I'm here in Australia, I'm, you know, going out, buying some new clothes, grabbing some stuff to take back with me to Europe. And all I can see when I'm in the changing room doing it is just goes downlights everywhere, just my fucking shiny head. And it's like, I get it. I should just be able to not worry about that shit, but I do. I fucking worry about it. And of course, I think, as you mentioned on camera, I'm going to worry about it. So I just got to get over myself a bit.
All you got to remember is there's just one rule, right? You can be bald and in shape and be like hot and good looking, right?
Like Jason.
Exactly, a very good example. Or no, seriously, you're a good-looking dude. I mean, like that's real
We've
talk.
all seen you naked here, so
Yeah, that's
Unfortunately, yeah, with his ridiculous Wolverine chest hair. That's like some fucking 70s throwback. But anyway, right? So you can be bald and in shape and be hot, right? Or you can be a little bit, you can be flabby and chunky and big and have like a really nice stylish hair and dress right, and you can be hot. What you cannot be is fat and bald. So
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Get to the gym. I got to go to the gym then. All right.
No, dog. You fucking. You're. That was a pep
My
talk.
manorexia is flaring up.
That was a pep talk.
My
I'm shitting on you.
manorexia is flaring up right now, Richard. I apologize.
Yeah, dude.
It's getting late here, man.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, like it's definitely our turn because obviously women have had to deal with this like level of scrutiny for a long time, but gone are the days where me and Dunk could wear like an unironed fucking shirt on a broadcast, like because we just don't give a fuck about that because we didn't want to wear the suit and tie to begin with, and now it's like you're not wearing a suit and tie, but you are being judged on your drip. You're getting judged on the clothes you wear, the jewelry you wear, how much polish up, what shape you're in.
So many personalities now, like what that self-image because of personal branding of streamers and of sponsor deals as players and all that jazz to take advantage of that stuff. Just seeing it more and more.
I mean, Yanko was ahead of the curve on that one. Like, I always thought. I remember back when Semler used to be the suit guy. Different suit every day, every event, all of them different patterns, hugely flamboyant. I used to think like, I don't know if that's just his thing. Like, I don't know if that'll like take on. But then like suddenly you got this fucking generation, and it's like you got Yanko coming out with a watch that's like as big as my fucking, big as a dinner plate, fucking suit that's like probably about as expensive as my fucking car or whatever. And it's like. Jesus, like the game definitely got leveled up, man, when the new breed came in.
Overreacting, of course. But for me, it was more of a thing that I enjoyed for myself, regardless of the broadcast, right? And I was just in a position where I could afford some of those things. But the suits and stuff, I think it depends on the show and like the broadcast. Like a place like E-League sort of warrants it. A locker room in a hockey stadium in St. Petersburg probably doesn't warrant it as much, and I can just wear, whatever. On Pro League, I wear T-shirts even today, sometimes, or whatever it is. So I think it depends. In general, I like it, but also to come back to that, it's like I've also fluctuated over the years with weight and shape and whatnot, but it is a fact that the more in shape you are, the more you can wear whatever the fuck you want, more or less, because it looks good, whatever. Sometimes you just have to wear bulky clothes, right, or like a bigger shirt and a bigger jacket just to sort of kind of make it look decent on the broadcast, that you don't look silly, right?
Yeah, I don't know. This is not something that I ever thought getting involved in Counter-Strike would be, something that I have to consider on a regular basis. Like, because the wardrobe side of things for me, you guys know I'm not fucking big into the suits, mate. Like, I wear them because that's kind of what is not demanded of me, but that's where the status is at for certain events, like a major grand final or whatever. Yeah, I better look fucking good. I spent I don't know, like 4 or 5 hours in a suit store in Antwerp trying to get a suit that I felt comfortable in to wear because I don't know. I don't feel comfortable wearing a suit. It's not my jam. I'd much prefer to have a big corduroy overshirt. Something that's a little bit more. But I get it. I understand what. Yeah, man. I don't mind it. But this is something which is
my generation was flannel. I'm that dude. Big oversized checky shirt.
Yeah, that's coming back.
Baggy jeans. I know, right? Like. I've lived long enough that my fucking teenage drip's back in fashion. I should probably like just quit.
And Jason's generation, as we, pointed out, was shirtless. So everyone had their moments.
Constantly shirtless.
Constantly shirtless medallions.
Well, the part of the world you're in there, Jason. You need the rug.
Yeah, it's cold out. You gotta have some heating.
Fucking hell. Do we want to do one final award, boys? We've done 3 hours. Do we want to pat ourselves on the back here?
Time
You know,
flies.
Are we still pretending with the conceit that this was an awards podcast? Oh yeah, fine. Yeah, I'll fucking tell the lie right to the bitter end. This has literally just been like us catching up, man.
What
It's
if
been like
the worst awards podcast out of all of the smorgasbord of selection that people will have available for them at this time of the year? We had a couple. They were mainly negatively themed, which we tried to put a bit of a positive spin on. I don't know. I'm just trying to think if there's anything. Well, obviously, we know what the best event of the year was, being IEM Rio. So there's really no debate about that one that needs to be discussed
Yep,
here
that's hands
within
down.
the present
Largest
company.
major to date.
Largest major of all time. You know.
By the way, on that point, Chad, because we haven't talked about that like statement. What were you basing that on? 'Cause
Which one?
you know, when you said it was like the largest all time, are you talking purely on ticket sales or?
He's making a little.
Do you mean like in this podcast?
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think I'm making like a jab at the
It's a
people who
lighthearted.
said that. Yeah. I don't actually
Oh
know.
no! So you weren't being serious when you said it?
No,
'Cause
no,
it
no.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Because look, I know I don't think during the entire broadcast of Rio, and I might be wrong, and I hopefully somebody finds a clip of me saying it, but I don't think I said like this is the biggest major ever or anything along those lines. I think like because. I'll be honest, once we walked in the arena day one and we saw how cool the stage was and the setup and we got to walk around and see where we were going to be casting around, I was like jumping with excitement of how cool this was going to be. And then with what it manifested into and then, you know, and that's the thing, the online stuff, sometimes you got to steer away from it, sometimes you have to read it. But reading a lot of it during that, it didn't feel representative of what we were experiencing in the arena for all of the days. Obviously, some of the days were worse than others, right? Like the first day was pretty rough. I think Alex and I did the first quarterfinal, and that was like, you know, this
was a
is
grim day.
already. Yeah, the wind was not immediately taken out of the sails, but it's like, okay, well, this isn't what I thought this was going to be.
I remember
at all.
the episode you did. Sort of like it was either the first one you did. It was you were either still there or it was the one after. But Yanko like just lost it and said like, you know, like, oh, people have gone too far the other way now. Like people were criticizing the event to such a ridiculous degree and the minutiae. And it's like, shut the fuck up, you know. And like. Obviously, for me, I'm kind of like, you know, I drive the criticism. I get it. I wrote that article, which definitely did not go over well in Brazil. But for me, it was like, I understand the trade-off that ESL made. I get it. They were more concerned about the live event than they were the online broadcast, you know. And when you run a tournament, when you run an event, we all make this consideration, like it's a very hard perfect balance. You can't strike a perfect balance, I don't think, of like serving up something that's really, really good and serves the needs of the people at the event and is also absolutely perfect for people who aren't at the event at home watching the online broadcast. It's like a matter of shifting priorities. And I just think ESL, for me, they prioritized the live event probably a bit too much, and that's why the criticism was as vitriolic and as frequent as it was.
I wonder if how much of a catastrophe it would have been if Furia didn't make it into the arena, right? And there's like a couple of like points that really stick out for me. Like the goal is, as far as I'm aware, he wasn't meant to be in the arena at all. He was meant to be in the fan fest the entire time. And then they brought him into the arena, and that was through him pressuring, as far as I understand. And the bit that I really get lost on there is, I think that's all good and well when you want to have the fever pitch around a Furia game, but when it's another match that he doesn't have interest in, he's good at rallying the national pride behind the team, right? And being an observer of what's going on. He's not a professional commentator of Counter-Strike, right? He's not presenting excitement to the people in the arena unless it's the home team. And I don't mean that as a slight to him. He's obviously fested something which is a huge business for him in his country. And yeah, okay, however he's gone about doing that, but he's successful at what he has done. But it's not the place for that to be the case, because if you're a Brazilian fan in the arena and it's in Portuguese, but you're not having someone who's energetically commentating the match to you and delivering you the excitement, that's part of the experience, right? That's definitely part of the experience.
I think that's
right
also
there.
what makes him I think that's also what makes him so powerful and so important in the way that he was for that show, because I think there's a lot of Brazilians that would still probably prefer to have him rather than like the typical broadcast commentator like we do it. I think he has that
they would
pull for sure.
they would have been absolute
also,
outrage if you'd replaced him.
The biggest thing that I hated about that was I felt for the commentators that they hired to actually cast the games in Brazil, who just like the day before, think of how excited we were getting to cast inside that arena. For them, it had to be, in some ways on a different level, considering it's their home country. For those guys to have that taken away from them just on, one person's will, that had to have sucked. I felt horrible for those guys.
They definitely casted the first day, right?
Yeah, they casted.
Yeah, they did the first day, and then they moved him indoors. There's a lot that went on behind the scenes. There was like a lot of power plays in like Brazilian esports, and Gaules emerged essentially as the winner. But there was like a lot of they had really good commentators.
Yeah,
they really did.
I remember Beta.
Guys like Beta. Yeah, and he's killing it in Valorant right now. But he didn't quit because he wanted to. Everyone was presented with a choice. Like, you can be part of Gaules' thing, and that's assuming he wants you in the first place. And if you aren't part of Il Tribo or Omelette or, whichever company name he uses, fuck you. Get the fuck out of town. Go do something else. You will not touch Counter-Strike. And so that, unfortunately, led to this vacuum where why would I even try and be a commentator now for CSGO in Brazil?
Yeah.
Why would I even do
I
it?
remember when all that was going down, I was laughing to myself at the time because, when you go into like a subreddit thread and like there's an article about, the one I remember is like why certain talent aren't hired back from the old days, and the whole conversation centers around like politics. And I remember just sitting there and being like... That's not even like close to like the actual politics that goes on in the industry. Like nobody gives a fuck about talent politics within the industry. It's because behind the scenes was going on like the political side of the different Brazilian entities trying to bid for broadcasting rights to all the major tournament organizers. And you hear the politics going into those conversations and hear the rumors of how those negotiations are going down. And it's just like, man, nobody has any sense of what politics looks like actually. Like if you think the caster hiring politics is due to that kind of stuff, like you've lost your fucking minds.
Yeah, I think as well some of the stuff, like it also there was also, I think, with it being touted in the way it was, right? Like, oh, this is the biggest major ever, or whatever, right? With it being touted that way, I think the people who were pushing that narrative didn't think very carefully about what they're doing there, because if it doesn't live up to that level of expectation that the people have, whether they're there or at home, well, now you've just given them ammunition, right? You've given them something to bite back against here. If it ended up, being as grand as what was, let's say, internally prophesized, then sure, come out after the fact and fucking sell that. Like, use that as a pushing point for whatever content you do after it. But during, it's like, okay, we're taking some risks here, aren't we?
I could very easily see a world in which they had nobody to present that side of the argument, because everything leading up to Brazil was just pure hype of how big it was going to be. Like nobody was doubting that it was going to kind of stumble the way it did. I mean, you even had, do you remember when all the different like sports arenas around Brazil were like messaging and saying, hey, we've got like 40,000 seats. Hey, we've got like 50,000 seats in an outside arena, and all the players and everyone and all like.
I know this sounds sick, but I wish ESL had took them up on the offer. It would have been so much more funny if you'd finally gone to like the Maracana or whatever, and it's 50,000, and then you have that fucking outsiders like Mouse Sports game or whatever it was, with like 50 people in the crowd. Oh, that would have been so good.
Yeah, but that's the thing as well. That's actually like
they had no indication
more
that
ammunition
could possibly collapse, right? That's what I think it was. I think it just kind of built to a fever pitch because every piece of feedback on everything they did leading up to it got like a positive ping back at them, Even
the Challenger and the Legend stage left a pretty good taste in the mouth, right? Even games that weren't Brazilian games was still relatively well received because the people who were there, obviously a much smaller quantity of seats available, but those were hardcore Counter-Strike fans, right? Those are the people who are watching Counter-Strike no matter if it's a Brazilian team or not, and obviously a lot more people getting an intimate experience with Gaules, so you got the mixture of those two groups, right? And that provided what truly was, in some moments, like awe-inspiring stuff, because you'd walk into this arena I remember it was like the Na'Vi versus Vitality game, and they were going bonkers for that. And that I was like, when it was the Brazilian stuff, I was like, okay, they're nationalistic, they're supporting their team. But when I walked in and the Na'Vi Vitality game was on there, and it was going into overtime, I think it was, and they were going nuts for that. That to me was like, okay, we got some proper Counter-Strike fans here, and that is what got me the most excited out of probably all the day. It was a really cool experience, but that one right there, that one hit me. I was like, shit, okay, they love it. They love it as much as I do, and that's what I want.
And what definitely didn't help was, like I said, I mean, this has been like competition-wise, like it's been good because everyone's bad, but like the overall level doesn't help. The format at the majors, the way the game's played right now, and like how so many good teams like at the majors shit the bed. Like, so I don't blame it. Put it this way: if I was a Brazilian fan and I'm all in on Furia, I'm probably one of the guys who's just like, right, so who have we got today? It's Outsiders versus who? All right, yeah, fuck it. I'll stay in bed and, might go down there in the evening and see what's going on. I totally get it. It wasn't like a tantalizing prospect. Let's not pretend, let's not pretend like we were all super excited about like some of the matchups we were watching as the tournament evolved. Because they
weren't the best storylines. Definitely not.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they weren't like the ideal perfect matchups for sure.
Considering what was available to us, right, we definitely fell short of what could have been the absolute best. But then I guess that's the sobering thing of the open circuit and the pressure of an event like this and teams who you expect to perform underperforming. Right,
and
like
leaving Vertigo
right.
in the pool.
Yeah.
Thanks guys for that one.
Fuck, I can't believe that game. Casting that game with Alex, we're casting it in because it wasn't the stage game. It was the backstage game. And just the level of gravitas on that match when the sobering feeling of what was going to transpire sunk in. And we're casting it in a little room, like a demountable. I don't know if that's a term that you guys use, but it's just like a little fucking site building that's, and we're casting in there and it's a sterile environment and it's a crazy exciting game with so much on the line, and you're having to give it the sauce because it deserves the sauce. But you look around after you finish the crazy round, and you look, oh shit, it was
weird being removed.
But I understand why. But I think this is the thing. When I reflect on that event, I definitely don't have the sour taste of everybody who viewed it at home, which is always going to be the way. And I think I've come to terms with that a little bit more over the last couple of weeks, because for a while there, I kind of, I felt not hard done by, because that's what I think the viewers at home felt, right? But because there was a bit that just felt like it was beating the drum. Probably not the best at it when we're talking about how much drum beating there was going on, but like just for the sake of it. It felt like, but that's because we were on the other side of the fence. And it's created this weird divide. And I think that if we could review all the mistakes that happened and go back and change them all, we all would. And hopefully if ESL, when they return to Brazil, we don't know where they're going just yet, but are able to make up for a couple of these things and people can re-experience it. Because I know when people watched IEM Sydney, the crowd was a massive reason of why IEM Sydney was fun, but it was an impartial crowd, right? So that right there, I guess, is the thing that if we're not,
has to be, right?
Exactly. Unless we're able to bridge that gap, I don't know, because everything gets just like lumped on like ESLers as all their fault. Like a lot of the things, I don't think necessarily 100% their fault. And when I say their, like, obviously I say ESL, it's like the brand, it's just the thing that people are, throwing stones at a building. For me, that's much more personal, of the people who I'm friends with and the relationships that I've built over the years. So that's why I think I have a tougher time stomaching a lot of that as well. But just things like the Blast show match, and I mentioned this on last week's episode, the Blast show match being like touted as the best show match of all time. Well, in comparison to the shit that got served up at the major, it was a much better show match. But was it a good show match? Really, it's just a bunch of fucking gimmicks with the players exploiting fucking no clip. Like, I don't find that entertaining. Maybe some people at home do, That's fine. You can enjoy that. That's great. But like, that's for a show match for me. The thing that I fucking want people to do is we either do these WWE type shit that we did like with the cashes, where it's ridiculous, it's over the top, it's a bit of fun, it's seeing people in environments and places that are a little bit different, or we do a proper all-star show match where there's an incentive for these players to actually try and win. And I don't think we can ever get there, because how do you make these players earning $30K a month? Like, how can you fucking incentivize these guys? So I don't know. I'm going on some tangents, boys.
You put it in the fucking contract where if you attend and you are called upon to do the show match, you're obligated to do it. The end.
It's the same
They
as
stomach so many
as you
fines.
have to do with signing sessions, right?
Yeah.
Like you would be
Exactly. You have to do a signing
even
session,
if
you
you're
have to
out
do.
sometimes in groups before. If you're like a good team, you would still have to stick around, and they would do it for those teams on the first day of the playoffs, so they could go home earlier still. But you would just have to stick around even though you're out of the competition to finish your obligations, because the organizer has sold tickets to people, they paid money, and one of the things that was guaranteed was signing sessions with these teams. So you have to honor that obligation.
Yeah.
No two ways about it.
I'm sure there's ways to sort it out. All right, gentlemen. How do we want to close this? Do we want to close this? Do we want to just go forever? This could be the longest podcast
All right,
of all time.
Certainly
Rookie
the
of the
longest that
year.
we've done.
Rookie of the year, Monesi. Most improved player, A-Core.
Okay.
Ninja is doing a promotion with the Detroit Lions, Jason.
I saw
know
that. Yeah, that's
yeah.
cool.
It's fine.
So
The Packers are going to beat them in the last
Best
game for the
crossover.
spot in the playoffs. Lions going to Lion
Aaron Rodgers.
like usual.
I'm a Cowboys fan, so
Now you are.
Why are you guys talking
Yeah.
about basketball? See? Yeah, there you go.
you got some
There's
jokes. That
jokes
was
left
good.
in the system.
Yeah, he's got you on. He's got some little shake
it's not all despair. It's not all despair.
Yeah.
Something in the mix. All right. All right. Let's shut this bad boy down.
Yeah.
It's been another year of Counter-Strike, and we're going to embark on yet another in about 48 hours time. I don't know. For me, it's now the 31st, so it's technically New Year's Eve for me. I'll let you know how it goes.
It's not even
I'll let you
noon
guys
for
know
me,
if you
that's
should bother
fine.
coming into the
We
new
should
year or
just
not.
do a thing. Chad, are you going to be celebrating New Year's Eve in any manner?
I'm going with my little niece of 9 months old to the zoo tomorrow. So that's going to be my New Year's celebration. What about you, Yanko?
All right. I was just thinking, I had this idea, just when it hits midnight, you send a selfie wherever you were at, whatever you were doing. Then, 7 hours later, I'll do the same. And then 6 hours later, Jason will do it.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I'll
that's-
choose some
yeah.
good lighting for my bald head.
That's cute as fuck.
If I'm not passed out by the time
Well,
clock
just
hits
set an
midnight.
alarm and wake up and send it from bed. So
Oh,
we
yeah,
can
of
show
course,
you.
Jason. Yeah, I will do that. Yes, 100%.
Well, we're going to get Richard involved. He was here for all of this.
Richard,
He'll
you
be
wanna
an hour
involved?
behind
You want
you.
to be in the selfie train?
Richard is like an hour behind me. No, or ahead of me. Behind
Yeah,
me.
I don't. Yeah, it's like 4:30 in the afternoon.
It's
for me
5:30
now,
for me,
so-
yeah.
Yeah. So, I can do. Anders already has a photo of me next to like a mountain of cocaine, which probably could be career-ending. So maybe I just
I
don't
don't
want to
think
send any more
cocaine's career
selfies.
ending.
Nah, you're right. I mean, but I won't.
Heroin, on the other hand.
Yeah, that one might.
That's life ending.
That's
Okay.
great. What a
Well,
note 10. What an outrageous.
Don't-
This is
don't do
this is
drugs,
the
kids.
second episode we're going to have to edit out, so...
Yeah. But yeah, listen, I'm not. I don't have any plans. Like I don't know. Like New Year's Eve for me never really feels like a big deal. I sort of stopped celebrating it like a while back. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But so it'll just be a selfie of me, like just in my shorts at my computer desk. Probably.
That's hot.
Good enough
We're
for
just
me.
doing
Yeah,
a
I know.
Twitter version of that new app they've got going, Be Real, right? We're just doing a Twitter version of that with all the Zoomers are up to. Look at us.
Yes.
We're keeping up with the times.
We're keeping up with the times.
All
Hair
right, boys.
transplants, liposuction.
Dick enlargement surgery. Well,
Botox next. Oh, shit.
To
I'm
each
getting
their
those
own.
roids, Richard.
We have to get the fuck out of here before this gets even worse.
All right. Goodbye.
Erectile dysfunction. All right. Do I just press stop now then?